It's time to laugh, to win, and to live the thrill of the action.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. What the hell's going on out here?
No idea what's going on, but I am excited.
Every pick, every play, every game-changing moment. Unbelievable! This is You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Kostos on You Bet or You Bet. We have a lot of NBA playoffs to dive into. We'll get into that momentarily. Danny Parkins is going to join us coming up in about 30 minutes. He is on Fox Sports 1. We're also going to wrap up our thoughts on the NFL draft. We'll do that along the show as well. And again, we'll continue to get you updated on everything that is happening in the NBA playoffs. So far in the NBA playoffs, I would say aside from the 1-8 matchup in the Eastern Conference, everything that we expected to happen in the NBA playoffs are currently happening. Let's focus in on the Eastern Conference. I think we all knew that the Eastern Conference was going to feel very, very wide open. There didn't appear to be that Oklahoma City Thunder. There didn't appear to be that San Antonio Spurs, that very dominant team that stood above everybody else. That is exactly how we've seen things play themselves out so far in the early portion of the NBA playoffs. Last night, the Boston Celtics had a chance to eliminate the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, don't get me wrong. I still expect Boston to take care of that series, and I expect them to win it in 6. But one of my issues with Boston over the last handful of years is they like to play with their food sometimes. This was a series that should have been done in 5. Boston should be laid up right now, resting, giving Jason Tatum a little bit more time to recover, giving Jaylen Brown some time, and preparing for the next round and being the first team in the Eastern Conference to advance to the next round. That is not happening. They get dominated yesterday at home with the 113-97 win by the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll talk more about Joel Embiid here coming up in a bit. Joel Embiid, he was back, 33 points, 8 assists. When Joel Embiid is healthy, Joel Embiid is one of the 10 best players in the NBA. The problem is Joel Embiid very rarely plays. I don't know how much PTO you get at your job, but I trust you do not have the same benefits package as Joel Embiid. He is always missing action. He was back last night, 33-8. They go on the road and absolutely control the Boston Celtics, and they win that game 113-97. So we thought that Boston is the favorite in the Eastern Conference, and I still believe that to be the case. But there has been no real separation that has really been created in this Eastern Conference. Detroit has all of the problems that we thought they were going to have heading into this postseason. Detroit didn't come in with a lot of playoff experience. The Magic actually have a decent amount of playoff experience, and the Pistons can't shoot. If you can't space the floor in 2026 and you only have really one true reliable scorer, you are going to run into issues once you get to the postseason, and that has been the problem so far for the Detroit Pistons. You got Cade Cunningham, who was one of the 5 to 7 best players in the league, and that's really it. Jalen Duren, you were counting on him to be that number 2, a guy who was an all-star. He has been MIA so far in this postseason. It seems to me that the Detroit Pistons, they're about to be going fishing here very, very soon. So you can eliminate at least one of the teams that we thought were possible contenders in the Eastern Conference. I don't know if I would consider Orlando to be one of those teams, but every year there is a team that just seemingly comes out of nowhere. There is a team like a Dallas Mavericks, a team like an Indiana Pacers, the Miami Heat a couple of years ago that make a deep run in the NBA playoffs. Maybe that team could possibly be the Orlando Magic. If you got the 1 seed out of the way and you don't have to go up against Boston in the second round, you feel pretty decent about your chances, I would say, in the second round of the NBA playoffs, regardless of who you can go up against. Let's talk about the Knicks here for a little bit. The New York Knicks, they have a 126-97 win over the Atlanta Hawks. In the same way that I mentioned that sometimes Boston has a problem with playing with their food a little bit, leaving the door open just a little bit, and allowing a team to maybe steal a game or two and the series goes 5 or 6 where it doesn't need to be, I was wondering if that was going to be the case with the Knicks. It feels like the Knicks have been fighting from a deficit for most of this series. They took control in game one. They really had an opportunity of taking control of game two and let that game slip through the end by a great effort by C.J. McCollum. Fast forward to game three, the Hawks win that game, and then the Knicks are on their back foot. They're fighting from behind for a little bit. They win game four. They also come back home, and they do exactly what they're supposed to do in game five and take control of that series. Jalen Brunson has one of those Jalen Brunson games where he has 33 and 8. I was encouraged to see that the Knicks took advantage of that from the jump. It was 35-22 at the end of the first quarter, and the Knicks outscored the Hawks in every quarter. They never really let the Knicks up or the Hawks up. And that's exactly what you're supposed to do when you're a team with NBA championship aspirations. And that is not what we're talking about with the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks are a nice story. They have been a very good second half team. The Knicks are a team that you believe have an ability to compete for an NBA championship and get out of the Eastern Conference. I think they've shown that their last couple of games. Now, it is now finishing the job. What did Kobe say? Job not finished. The Knicks, you won game 4, you won game 5. Now can you go on the road in game 6 and avoid a game 7 that the coin flip and anything is possible? I expect the Knicks to be able to do that, but they're also the Knicks. So until it's done, you always got to leave open that possibility. So the Eastern Conference, I think, is played out the way that a lot of people expected it to play out. I was never super high on the Detroit Pistons because of the lack of experience and lack of shooting. Now, I didn't think they were going to lose in the first round, but they are on the brink of being eliminated. You knew that Boston was a good team, but I don't think Boston's created that separation. It looks like they're going to go 6 in that series. The Knicks are going 6 in their series. You would have to think whether it's the Sixers or whether it's the Hawks, one of those teams are probably going to win game 6 and we're going to a game 7. That's just the way the NBA plays itself out sometime. And then we're looking at the Eastern Conference with the other series with the Cavs and the Raptors. I thought the Raptors were looking like Sweep City there for a while. I thought the Cavs jumped out early. They looked okay, all right. And then you know what happened? James Harden returned. There was a slight moment there where I expected something from James Harden, and that was a terrible, terrible decision. The first time I was here with you guys, I lectured you on not believing in James Harden. Now, I was prepared to get off of the train a little bit early. I didn't know I was going to have to do it potentially in the first round against the Raptors. Now, the Cavs are still going to win that series, but all of the questions, all of the concerns that we had about the Cleveland Cavaliers, I mean, they are showing you exactly why we shouldn't believe in them. Whether it's Donovan Mitchell, whether it's James Harden, the fact that this series feels like a real tussle says everything that I need to know. We are not getting all 3 of those series ending in 6. The Celtics series, the Knicks series, and the Cavs series. Again, a couple of these series are likely going to a game 7. Now, let's transition over to the Western Conference. That I think the Western Conference, aside from the injuries with the Minnesota Timberwolves, are going according to plan. I didn't think that Portland really had a chance of winning that series. I thought that Portland was good enough to get 5 in that series. They did get 1. They lose the series yesterday 4-1. Victor Wembanyama, he came back from a slight injury, and he's back to being one of the 5 best players in the league. 17 points, 14 rebounds, 6 blocks, the best defensive player in the league, a true unicorn, and they just dominated the Trailblazers from start to finish. You knew it was going to get spooky when Wemby came back and the Spurs were able to really fight off Portland. And then you got that going back home for game 5 with a chance to end the series. Yeah, you knew that that was going to be the end of the season for the Portland Trailblazers. The exact same thing happened in one of the other series in the Western Conference, looking at Phoenix and Oklahoma City. This feels to me like we are on a crash course collision waiting for these two teams to go up against each other. Now, I don't want to completely dismiss the Denver Nuggets or the Minnesota Timberwolves, where the Wolves only have to get 1 in order to win that series, but they're completely banged up. No Anthony Edwards, no Dante DiVincenzo. The Nuggets, who were down 3-2, they got to win 2 games in order to do it, but you had a long, grueling 7-game series, while the Spurs 1-5. Now, they get a chance to kind of sit back, rest, and relax. It does feel to me like we are on a crash course collision for the matchup that I think all of us want to see. I want to see an epic 7-game matchup between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs. The two new kids on the block, the two young guns. You got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's about to win his second MVP. You got Victor Wembanyama, who's the best defensive player in the league, who looks like he's going to win a couple of MVP awards. You got two small market organizations that have built through smart moves, the lottery, and great draft picks and player development. That's where it feels like we're headed in the Western Conference. We'll see if Minnesota can just win one more game. I'll say this about Minnesota. This is a 6-game series and not a 7-game series. Minnesota needs to figure out a way to win tomorrow night. And if Minnesota thinks they are going to lose Game 6 at home and then go on the road with no Anthony Edwards and no Dante DiVincenzo, and they're going to win Game 7 in Denver, they are sadly mistaken. That is going to be a blowout if they get there. Minnesota did not have 3 chances to win one game. No, they have one chance to win one game. They were never going to win Game 5 on the road with all of their injuries. They are not winning Game 7 on the road with all of their injuries. Their season comes down to one game, Game 6 at the crib. Can you get a great effort from Ayo Dosunmu? Can you get a great effort from Julius Randle? Can Rudy Gobert continue to play great defense against Nikola Jokic? That is your chance in Game 6. And the hope is, can you get Anthony Edwards back at some point in that series against the San Antonio Spurs? Because if you don't get Anthony Edwards back, that is going to be another quick series. That is another 4-0, 4-1 gentleman sweep between those two teams. This feels like we are on a crash course collision between these two teams. The Thunder have either the Lakers or the Rockets coming up in the second round. The Lakers, I just don't think the Lakers have much of a chance against them. The Rockets have even less of a chance against the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's going to be a 4-1 series win, in my opinion, against the Oklahoma City Thunder. And you're looking at the other series, the Spurs potentially going up against either the Nuggets or the Timberwolves. It feels like it's a lot of the same vibes. You got the Pistons, who are completely up against the ropes. The Magic have just really, really controlled that series. Paulo has done a good job in balancing out Cade Cunningham, and Cade just doesn't have enough help, and there's not enough infrastructure around Detroit to think that they can realistically come back and win this series. Sometimes I think you see this, that because the NBA regular season is so disjointed, and this season there were so many NBA teams that were simply not trying in the first portion of the season, in the regular season, I think the Pistons were able to gobble up a bunch of wins. And now that you are here, the playoffs really highlight what you do or don't do well. And the Pistons don't really have a true second scorer, and the Pistons don't really have a lot of outside shooting, and the Magic are really, really exploiting that. So it looks like the Pistons are going to be out of here. They play coming up later today on Amazon Prime. We'll see if the Pistons can maybe extend this series and take control of Game 5 and get this back to Game 6. But they really got to do some work if they want to get this back to a series. We got a 2-2 series right now between the Cavs and the Raptors. The Cavs are back at home, so I expect a much better version of James Harden than we got in Games 3 and Game 4. The Knicks take control of Game 5. They now have a 3-2 series lead in that one. And Boston had a chance to close out the 76ers, but Joel Embiid had 33 and 8 in Game 5. They are now heading back to Philadelphia for Game 6. Maybe Joel Embiid is good enough to get this to a Game 7 now that they are heading back to Philadelphia. I want to step aside here, and I want to go around the room, and I want to ask this question. Every basketball generation has their what-if player. I think we are starting to figure out who that what-if player is for this generation. I'll tell you who it is. Keep it right here. My name is Carrington Harrison, filling in for Nick Kostos on You Better You Bet.
Back to You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
My name is Carrington Harrison. Happy to be filling in for Nick Kostos on You Better You Bet. This segment is sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting small businesses with affordable coverage options. Quote today at progressivecommercial.com. So I recently was watching a Magic Moment, the 30 for 30. And if you haven't seen it, it is about the rise and fall of the early 90s Orlando Magic. Now, I'm 37 years old, so I remember it pretty vividly. You remember when Shaq and Penny were everywhere? Shaq was this superstar center that we haven't seen since Bill Russell, since Wilt Chamberlain. He had all this charisma, all this athleticism, but it wasn't just Shaq. It was this 6'8". He looked like Magic Johnson point guard in Penny Hardaway. He had the shoes. He had the marketing, little Penny. Everybody loved Penny Hardaway in the 90s. Well, you know what happened to Penny Hardaway? His knees stopped working, and we never really got to see a 5-6 year stretch. Then we got another opportunity, I think, to see a version of Penny Hardaway, a little smaller, but a lot more explosive, and he had almost the exact same knee problems in Derrick Rose. Every basketball cycle, every basketball generation is defined by what-if players. Every basketball generation is defined by, if this player had stayed healthy, this guy would have been one of the absolute all-time greats. Or we get just a small window to see that greatness, and it makes you think, man, what would have happened if they had stayed healthy? What if Grant Hill hadn't had the issues that he had with the Detroit Pistons? Where would we be? Where would Grant Hill be? Derrick Rose. We see these kind of guys. I think it is pretty clear, at least for this basketball cycle, who it is. I think it's Joel Embiid. There is no question that Joel Embiid, in my mind, is the second best big man of his era. You want to put Jokic at number one. I think Joel Embiid is the second best big man of his era. Better than Anthony Davis. Joel Embiid, he's won an MVP. 7 times he's been an all-star. He's been on the all-NBA team 5 separate times in his career. He's been all defense. He's won the NBA scoring title. He won a gold medal, and it's not just him being on the team. If you remember, the United States was being dominated by Serbia, and they needed a big fourth quarter comeback. A major reason of why they came back in that game was Joel Embiid played the best basketball of his life in the Olympics in that fourth quarter going up against Nikola Jokic. It was like he knew on this world stage, I got a chance to show everybody how good I am, and he took full advantage of this. The Philadelphia Sixers' entire plan about the process was about Joel Embiid being that kind of player. It was about him and Ben Simmons being this era Shaq and Penny. Well, Ben Simmons had his own issues we don't got to get into, but it was about Joel Embiid being the defining big man of his era. It did not turn out to be that. I think if you are looking at the last 10 years, the last 5 years, if you can pick a player that you could press the button to stay healthy on, I think the answer could very easily be Joel Embiid. I mean, we should have saw this coming. He was hurt in college. He was hurt his first couple of years in the NBA. It has just been a revolving door when it comes to injuries. But we've seen it there. I would say more so even than Zion. We saw Zion put it together for really half a season. We've seen Joel Embiid to put it together for a bunch of different periods. That team a few years back that lost to the Kawhi Leonard Toronto Raptors, I mean, that was a Joel Embiid team. That team had him. It had Jimmy Butler. It had Ben Simmons. That Sixers team was prepared to go on a little bit of a run, but they just got beat by one of the best shots in NBA history. Joel Embiid, I think, could be used as this generation's player. I want to go around the room here because we're all basketball fans. Who is your what-if player? If you could press the button and you can see them stay healthy and you can ensure that they can reach whatever ceiling you thought they were going to reach, who would you press the button for? Because I think Embiid would be a really good answer. Bill, we'll start with you here. Who is your what-if basketball player?
Carrington, I'm going to go old school because if we're going to Tyler and Kenny, they're going to go from a shallower pool than I am because I think I am the oldest man in the room. So I'm going to go Bernard King of the New York Knicks. So 1980s, huge scorer, had all sorts of health problems. I think missed 2 or 3 full seasons, missed all 82 games that year. I think he missed almost of 3 seasons in a row. And it just basically couldn't be it. This was a guy who would have been able to consistently get 30 plus points a game in a tough era of basketball, but the knees just failed him. Like you kind of said with Penny Hardaway, couldn't stay healthy and just never became the guy that a lot of people thought he could.
In the knees. Every time when you look at a what-if NBA player, it's always the knees. Their knees just give out. Like Derrick Rose was looking like the most explosive point guard that we had ever seen. And then we found out that he had the knees of 2011 iPhone chargers. They just couldn't hold up. Just not sturdy in really any capacity. Let's move on here. I want to hear from everybody who their what-if player. We got our old school portion. We got our ESPN Classic answer with Bill, with Bernard King. We got our throwback edition way back Wednesday. That's what we got. All right, Tyler, I want to get who is your what-if NBA player? You can press the button and you ensure that they stay healthy for their whole career.
Derrick Rose was obviously the one I was coming up with. How about Brandon Roy? I mean, 3-time All-Star, would look like he was poised for a big career in Portland, and then his knees just completely gave out, only played like 20 more games in the NBA. So Brandon Roy immediately came to mind, but I couldn't agree more with Derrick Rose. That would have been my first one.
Really good one. When you think back to it, that Blazers team, they were supposed to go on a little bit of a run. They were really prepared to go on a little bit of a run. You had Greg Oden. You also had Brandon Roy. You know, that Portland Trailblazers team coming off of the Jailblazers, they had all of the ingredients to kind of go on a little bit of a run, and just Greg Oden could never really stay healthy. And you also have Brandon Roy, who there was a time there, Brandon Roy was a top 10 player in the league, but 100% right, just could never stay healthy. Kenny, I want to get who is your what-if NBA player?
Unfortunately, Tyler took my answer. I'll just add this in. He didn't get to play with Damian Lillard, and I think that's the biggest what-if ever. Of course, C.J. McCollum was there to complete that backcourt, and they were a good backcourt for many years. But Brandon Roy and Damian Lillard did not cross over. If they got to play with each other and Brandon Roy never got hurt and he hit his full potential, I think him and Damian Lillard could have won a title together if it was him instead of C.J. McCollum. But shout out to McCollum. He's still balling for the Hawks.
C.J. McCollum still is balling a lot for the Hawks. C.J. McCollum is kind of one of those players that we all learned and discovered at the exact same time when he was at Lehigh in the NCAA tournament. I'm like, oh, man, this guy's pretty good. I wonder what's going to happen to him. And it ended up working out for him. And he ended up being a very, very good NBA player that's going to end up probably playing, 12 to 15 years and is a certified bucket. Bill, you said you got a couple of more. All right, we got to go back into the oldies here. See, what we got earlier was we got some MP3 players. We got to go back to the 8-track and vinyl players for you. I know you got some 70 ABA guys that you want to tell us about. Who are some more of your what-if NBA guys?
No, I could have gone Bill Walton here, right? But I'm not going that. I like I said, I wanted to leave the pool open to the other guys, but 2 others. One, I don't know if this guy would have been like a legendary player. I don't know, but Greg Oden is definitely one that you look back and go, what could that guy have been if he could have stayed healthy? But the one for me is a Bulls fight. If we're going to do Derrick Rose, let's wind the clock back a little bit more. Let's do Jay Williams. Like, he didn't have a great rookie year, but his second year in the league, he was really starting to come together. He was a dynamic point guard, could have been awesome. Motorcycle accident, we all know what happened. So that's a couple I will add to the mix. There's Oden and Williams.
No, I remember he got in that motorcycle accident. I loved Jay Williams when he was back at Duke. I thought he was going to be a really good pro. I think he was en route to being a good pro, and then you're right, the motorcycle injury just cut his career short. I feel that way about Zion Williamson. I'll never forget the first time I saw Zion play. A friend shared a YouTube video with me and asked, have you seen this kid before? Nah, never seen it before. This is when Zion was a junior in high school. And I felt like I was watching Charles Barkley with LeBron athleticism. It was like this basketball alien had just appeared on my phone. I had never seen a 15, 16-year-old with this kind of athleticism. And at that moment, I thought that Zion was going to be the future of basketball. It looked like it was going to be that case for about 3 years. We all remember his recruitment coming out of high school and him deciding where he was going to go. He then goes to Duke. They then get off to an incredibly hot start. He then busts his shoe wide open. And I feel like that was really the end of Zion Williamson. I really do. If we go back, if it was like a movie, you know how in every movie there's that scene in the movie where things really start to take a turn. Like in the movie Scarface. You know, Scarface, everything is going really well. And then from the moment Scarface buys that tiger, that's really the end of the movie. The second half of the movie, Tony's life completely falls apart. That's what I feel like Zion Williamson's moment was. His moment was whenever he blew his shoe out in that Duke, North Carolina game. That was the absolute height and ceiling of Zion Williamson's career. Ever since then, it's been injuries or off the court issues or weight issues. It's been really all of those things ever since then. I wanted to get you guys' opinion on Joel Embiid, and is he one of your what-if players? I mean, Joel Embiid, who has battled injuries again this season, he comes back and just phenomenal. I mean, he has been phenomenal. I mean, in his last 2 games, if you add them up, he has scored 59 points in those games. Incredible shooting, and he won this game for them in a 33-8 performance. He at least gives Philadelphia a chance, you would say, in Game 6. He gives them a chance. With him, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George, with them going back to Philadelphia now for Game 6, right now it's about staving off elimination for as long as you can. The Sixers were down 13 in that game. They fought and clawed and scratched their way back into it and find a way to win with 113-97. You're now going home for Game 6 tomorrow night. If you can win that game, you go back to Boston with the Game 7, and I think it's safe to say that all of the pressure is going to be on Boston. You had a 3-1 series lead in this. You're at home for Game 7. You're the favorites in this series. You got to figure out a way to win this series. Can Philadelphia now turn a little bit of the momentum in their favor and turn things over on the Boston Celtics? Coming up in just a bit, we're going to be joined by Danny Parkins of Fox Sports 1. We'll get his thoughts on who his what-if player is. I know Danny pretty well. I got a good idea of who that's going to be. We'll also get his thoughts on the rest of the NBA playoffs. We'll also talk some NFL draft as it is complete. Keep it right here. My name is Carrington Harrison. Filling on You Better You Bet.
Look at the hounding Knicks defense, even with this 20-point lead. Anunoby took it away. Brunson finishes. Timeout, Hawks.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
I'm really excited to be joined by our next guest, but let me tell you, when the games get bigger, the crowds get louder, and the excitement reaches a new level, be a part of the playoff action when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Download the BetMGM app. I would say that this next person really taught me radio, but the thing that most importantly he taught me is when he goes left, you got to go right. I mean, that's what I've learned more than anything. If he goes high, you got to go low. If he tells you 4 + 4 = 8, you still got to double check your math. Danny Park of Fox Sports 1 joins us on the show today. Danny, good morning. Park, what's good?
Good morning, C-Dot. It sounded like it was going to be a nice introduction, and then you went you. I get it. How are you?
Doing fantastic. You know what? Let's start with this because I like to keep you on your toes. What's your favorite Michael Jackson song?
Oh, man. Man in the Mirror? Man in the Mirror is a great one.
There is no chance that you could sing Man in the Mirror. That's the first song that popped in your head.
If you want to make the world a better place, you better look at yourself and make a change.
That's completely. You know what? If Man in the Mirror is your favorite Michael Jackson song, you might know ball in a way that I never thought you knew ball.
Dude, Man in the Mirror is a banger. What's the problem with Man in the Mirror? Are you judging me for Man in the Mirror?
No, nothing's wrong. I just would have guessed because I know you're not a big music guy. I was expecting a Thriller or a Billie Jean. I was not expecting a Man in the Mirror from you. I just wasn't expecting that.
Okay, couple things you maybe don't know about me. Have I seen Michael Jackson Cirque du Soleil in Vegas? I have. Have I seen MJ the Musical on Broadway since I've lived in New York City? I have. I go deeper than too deep. Now, could I go 7? Maybe not. But I'm familiar with the King of Pop.
Which NFL team do you think is going to play Dirty Diana first?
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Right now, we're talking to Danny Parkins of Fox Sports 1. Danny, what is it like in New York now that the Knicks have control of this series? There had to be a nervous period there for a while, but now they're up 3-2. Well, what's the feeling in New York City?
Listen, New Yorkers love the Knicks a great deal. I think that Knicks fans they've had an interesting run because now it's like CJ McCollum's a villain. No, he was just a guy who was balling out on you over the first few games of the series. Like, I don't think you can be a villain in New York when you've been in the Western Conference for 90% of your career. But Knicks fans are so starved for things that they go from 0 to 100 in 1 second. So like CJ McCollum goes, it's like, is he just having a good player having a great game? No, he's a villain. That for a minute they started chanting and like gathering outside like when they had a chance to go to the Eastern Conference Finals. Now they're doing it after first round playoff games. So like Knicks fans I think are a little thirsty. They're a little desperate. If I'm being totally honest with you. But it is a great basketball city, and they definitely think they're going to get by the Hawks. But I think the Hawks are going to win Game 6, and it's going to come down to a Game 7 at the Garden, where the Knicks deserve to be the favorites, no doubt. But I think this series is going 7.
Yeah, I said this earlier today when we were kind of going through it. I mean, you have 3 series right now that are 3-2. I mean, a couple of these series are heading to a Game 7. You got Boston and Philadelphia. You got the Knicks and Hawks you just mentioned, or Minnesota and Denver. Out of those 3 series, everybody is not closing it out in 6. We're going to get a couple of Game 7s. You think that the Knicks and Hawks are going to 7. Do you think we're going to get that same thing in Boston, Philly, or Nuggets, Timberwolves?
I mean, listen, I think the Nuggets are going to win the series. So I think that, and the only way they do that is if they go to 7. I think they're even favored right now to win the series because of the injuries to Minnesota's backcourt. But even if Denver wins the series, like this is the proverbial win the battle, lose the war type of situation. Like Spurs wrapped it up in 5 against Portland, and now they get a minimum of 6 days of rest advantage over the Nuggets if that series ends up going 7, and game 1 would be in San Antonio. So I just think Denver, you could argue that Minnesota's the worst matchup for them because of the physicality and what they can do with Gobert on Jokic. But like a younger team that's getting better as they go, learning on the fly with their playoff experience, with all of that rest edge, I just think that's an impossible spot for Denver to go. 7-game series against Minnesota, quick turnaround to the Spurs, and then if they somehow, some way got out of that, they'd have to go to an Oklahoma City team, presuming they get out of the Houston-LA winner in quick fashion. They would have even more rest edge there. Like we saw Denver kind of wear down over the course of multiple 7-game series last year. So, I think while I think Denver gets out of the first round, I think their championship hopes have pretty much been slashed by the Timberwolves.
Right now, we're talking to Danny Parkins of Fox Sports 1, getting his thoughts on the NBA playoffs. We'll also talk some NFL draft here in a little bit. So we were talking about the Eastern Conference, and there was a feeling that it was completely wide open. I think that's played itself out so far. Let's talk about the Pistons, and then we'll talk about the rest of the Eastern Conference. Are you surprised that series is going the way that it's going, with the Magic just very much in control of it?
No. And I want to be very clear. I did not call this in round 1. I did not call the Magic, but I did call the Pistons having no shot to come out of the East. I've seen this before. We see teams, I call them the try-hard Pistons for the last 2 months of the season, and we've seen this before, where like young teams that are incredibly talented, that have an incredibly bright future, even that have a superstar, which because Cade Cunningham is a superstar, and the Pistons are a good team. The Pistons do have a very bright future, but like, Jalen Duren was picking up fouls in the All-Star game. Like, they just play harder than other teams. If you treat the regular season like the playoffs, when you get to the playoffs, and everybody treats the playoffs like the playoffs, one of your biggest edges gets neutralized, and all of a sudden we start being like, who is their secondary offensive creator? They don't have one. Is Duren a sophisticated enough offensive player with better scouting reports and more physicality to overpower teams? And I think the answers are very clearly no. And even Cade, when the defense gets better, when the scouting reports get better, you start seeing him turn the ball over a lot more. So I said that the Pistons were the 4th best team in the East entering the playoffs. I said they had no shot to win the East entering the playoffs. The Magic doing this is obviously surprising. They're not shooting particularly well for the series. But if you go back to before the year, at BetMGM, I'm sure it was around there because these are the general Vegas numbers. The Magic were a mid-50s win team, and the Pistons were a mid-40s win team in terms of their over-unders. And then Orlando was disappointing, and then Orlando got really injured. And now all of a sudden, and I know Wagner has the calf strain, so we'll see, but they all of a sudden got healthy at the very end of the season. And I think if you didn't watch a single regular season game and you watched games 1 through 4 of that series, and you said who was the 1 seed and who was the 8 seed, you probably would have said, I'm pretty sure they're both 4-5 matchups, but you would not say that Detroit is better than Orlando. So I'm not particularly surprised.
Which team would you be more surprised to see make the NBA Finals, the Knicks or the Cavs?
It's a good question. I picked the Cavs to make the Finals before the playoffs started. I thought we were going to see a ceiling from them that we didn't see down the stretch of the regular season as they managed some injuries. But there is a softness to them that has been very upsetting. I think I will still say Cleveland because I think that their round 2 opponent is easier than the Knicks round 2 opponent, and I still think that Atlanta can win that series, though it's obviously unlikely at this point. But how the Knicks played last night, that team can win. Brunson being efficient, their defense being completely locked in, and them giving Karl Anthony Towns consistent touches throughout the game, that team can win. The Knicks are just very, very inconsistent to me. They are very Brunson dependent. And so I think that they are a flawed basketball team. But you can make the argument that anybody in the East not named the Boston Celtics is flawed.
Danny Parkins and James Harden coming together for a playoff collaboration. I mean, just sounds like a money-making enterprise for sure. Let's transition. Let's talk a little bit of NFL draft because, Danny, I know you, and you are big on spend the resources, go get the quarterback. There's a lot of controversy, a lot of debate about the Rams and their decision to spend the 13th overall pick with Ty Simpson. On one side, you could get a player that could help you in 2026, but they chose to kind of stash and develop. Where do you sit on the Rams taking Ty Simpson at 13?
I think it's insane. I think it's completely insane. I get the argument. With Matt Stafford, you will not draft this high again in order to go get your next quarterback. So take advantage of it now, and so you have your succession plan. Sure, that sounds good, except the last time you had the 13th pick in the draft, you drafted Aaron Donald. The last time you had a first-round pick, you drafted Jared Verse. I think one of those guys would be pretty useful if you added them to that Rams defense for this Super Bowl. They didn't win last year's Super Bowl. They made it to the NFC Championship game. I think the goal should be when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback playing at an MVP level at the end of his time, you want to use the resources to try to get him another ring. I think it is insane. I think if they would have traded down and taken Ty Simpson later in the first round, that's a different conversation. But just standing pat at 13 and going out and doing it, it's the height of arrogance. It's very smug. And I think the Jordan Love comp is an interesting one. And I think it's a very appropriate one. And I think this is a great debate. And I could see the arguments on both sides. And I'll see where you come out on it. Was Jordan Love a good pick? Yes or no? He's gotten a $250 million. Yes? Okay.
I think so.
What if they would have drafted T. Higgins? T. Higgins was the next wide receiver taken, 7 picks after Jordan Love, but only, I think, 5 picks or 6 picks after where they would have been at before they traded up for Jordan Love. That year after that draft, Aaron Rodgers wins the MVP. They lose in the NFC Championship game by 5 at home to Tampa, and they score 3 points in the fourth quarter. Would 970-yard, 6-touchdown T. Higgins have gotten them to a Super Bowl? What about the next year? Aaron Rodgers wins MVP. T. Higgins has almost 1,100 yards and half a dozen touchdowns. Again, Devontae Adams doesn't have a clear-cut number 2. Aaron Rodgers wins the MVP. The Packers lose 13-10 in the playoffs after a 13-win season. Would T. Higgins have helped you get 3 more points in that playoff game? You didn't win a second Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, and you never gave him a first-round pick wide receiver his entire tenure in Green Bay. Like, what has Jordan Love won?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I get it. You now have good quarterback play, and for 9 games, he looked like an MVP, and 1 game in the wild card round, he put up 40-plus in Dallas. You know, like, Jordan Love's really, really good. But would you have won another Super Bowl if you would have taken T. Higgins? I think that is a very fair question for the Packers. And what's more, I would absolutely value or argue 1 more Super Bowl is more valuable than anything Jordan Love has given you to this point by a long shot. So the Rams better be right. Like, Matt Stafford better win a Super Bowl before he retires, and then Ty Simpson better win a Super Bowl with the Rams. Otherwise, I think it was a huge wasted opportunity.
Danny, I'll get you out of here. We only got 2 minutes left. We were talking about this right before you came on. Who was your what-if NBA player? If you could press a button and you could guarantee that they stay healthy. I think some people would press the button for Joel Embiid. Just go ahead. This is you. You get 1 minute to opine about Derrick Rose here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Derrick Rose is my answer. Listen, Derrick Rose would not have led the Bulls to a dynasty. Derrick Rose would not have consistently beaten LeBron James in the Eastern Conference. But I know you like nostalgic kids movies. The Little Giants. You beat Kevin O'Shea down Cherry Hill Lane? Yeah, one time. One time. I absolutely believe that one time, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, if Derrick Rose has a completely healthy knee and he gets to play with a fully formed Jimmy Butler and Joakim Noah for Tom Thibodeau, I believe the Bulls get one title in the first half of the 2010s instead of us being totally robbed of the most athletic point guard in the history of the NBA. So Derrick Rose is my answer.
That is Danny Parkins joining us on the show with Fox Sports 1. You can catch him on First Things First. Park, I appreciate you, my brother.
Anytime, C-Dot. Good stuff, man. Talk to you later.
Absolutely. That is Danny Parkins joining us on the show today. We'll continue the basketball conversation, but we're going to switch from the pros to the amateurs, and I use amateurs very, very loosely. They are expanding the NCAA tournament. It is happening. We went from 64 to 68. Now they're talking about going to 76 teams in the NCAA tournament. We have a sports crisis that is currently happening. I will tell you exactly what it is. My name is Carrington Harrison. Very happy to be here with you today, filling in for our dear friend Nick Kostos on You Better You Bet. Keep it locked in right here.
win and to live the thrill of the action.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. What the hell's going on out here?
No idea what's going on, but I am excited.
Every pick, every play, every game-changing moment.
Unbelievable!
This is You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Good morning. My name is Carrington Harrison. Happy to be here filling in for Nick Kostos on You Better You Bet. Coming up momentarily, we will talk about there is a story right now that the NCAA that began the final steps to expand both the men's and the women's NCAA tournament to 76 teams. Las Vegas is already putting in a bid. They are trying to take those games away from Dayton and put those games in Las Vegas. We'll get to that coming up in just a bit. But I like to know and better understand the people that I am working with. You know, I'm the new guy here. You guys have a thing you're building up. It's great. I'm happy to be filling in for Nick Kostos, but you guys got your own little club. I don't know you guys that well. I like to better understand the people that I'm working with. Let me tell you guys a quick story, and let me ask you a question so I can better understand. I went to WrestleMania this year, and I had a really, really good time. I am not a big wrestling fan, but my cousin is. He's a big wrestling fan. He's also a big Raiders fan. It's in Las Vegas. It's in Allegiant Stadium. And you don't really ever have to twist my arm that much to go to Vegas. You can tell me you got free tickets to see U2 at the Cosmo. I will go with you if that means that we get to go to Las Vegas. So he's like, do you want to go to WrestleMania? Sure, of course. Some of my friends were going. Some of my friends live there. It was a really good time. So we're leaving night 2 of WrestleMania. Everybody is in very high spirits. It was a very good event. I don't know anything about wrestling. I don't watch wrestling, but I really enjoyed it. So we called an Uber, and we're waiting on the Uber, but we're leaving a stadium, so it's taking a little while. Now, if you've ever been to Allegiant Stadium, you know what I'm talking about. You have to walk across this bridge. You can go left, and you can go to the Luxor. You could go right, or you could go to Mandalay Bay. Now, I don't know what told me to go right as opposed to going left. But I said, here, why don't we go in Mandalay Bay? We'll stop, we'll get a drink, we'll let the traffic die down, and then we'll take the Uber from here. Everybody agrees. We hang a right. We walk into Mandalay Bay. Next thing I know, my cousin is tapping me with an excitement that I've never seen from him before. He points over and he says, there goes Trish Stratus. I'm like, who? There goes Trish Stratus. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, all right. He said, what do we got to do to take a picture with her? I don't know. Let's go over there and ask. So I go over there, I ask, and the man says you can either pay $60 or you can go to her merch store and you can buy some of her merch. So my friend, my cousin, they are ready to take 3 $20 bills out of their wallet. I'm like, wait, why don't we go inside the merch store? Why don't we get more information? And then you can, my friend said, I don't care. It's worth it. Let's get all the information first, and then you can make your decision. He begrudgingly agreed. So we walk into this merch store, and they have T-shirts you can buy for $20. And I said, see, look, you can buy a T-shirt for $20. You just have to show proof of purchase. You can then meet her. You can then take your picture with her. So both of them buy a T-shirt. They both meet Trish Stratus, and they are, giddy through the moon. My cousin is the most quiet, mild-mannered individual. I've never seen him that happy. So we're walking, and my cousin, he looks at me. And I don't know how he knew this about me, but when he said it, it opened my mind. He said, Carrington, that's my Topanga. And when he said that, the last 30 minutes of my life made all the sense in the world. If I had a chance to meet Topanga, if I had a chance to take a picture with Topanga, I would act the exact same way. I don't care how much it is. I want to go over there. I want to give her a hug. I want to tell her how much her show meant to me. It's still one of my favorite shows. I still watch Boy Meets World. I would be very, very excited. So when he said that, I said, you know what? I get it. That makes sense to me. I then asked him, hey, do you want to do anything else? It's our last night. We're flying back in the morning. We can go out. And he said, I just met Trish Stratus. We can go home now. I was like, okay, I went to bed at Vegas at 10 o'clock in the evening. Not really my plan. But you know what? My friends were happy. My cousin was happy. I was good. I'm telling you this story because I want to find out from the guys here, who's your Topanga? Who's your Trish Stratus? Who, if you saw them standing at Mandalay Bay and they were taking pictures, you would say, to hell with the rest of the plan is, to hell with the price. I want to go over and I want to meet this person and I want to take a picture with this person. Bill, we'll start with you. Who is your Topanga Lawrence? Who is your Trish Stratus that you want to meet and take a picture with?
I think for me, I mean, there's been plenty of crushes that, come and fade through the years. But the one I think that has held the candle for the last, 30 years now, Jennifer Aniston. That's my Topanga. If there was an opportunity there, I would probably turn into like a 21-year-old and just fawn all over it, fumble over my words. That's probably the one for me.
Okay, that's a good one. Jennifer Aniston is a really good one. I did get to momentarily meet Trish Stratus. I was the one taking the picture, so it was on my phone. I walk up to her, I shake her hand and say, hey, it's nice to meet you. She was very, very nice to me. I snapped the pictures. I mean, it was a really, really quick exchange. So I guess technically I met Trish Stratus, but it was a very, very small. I was honestly, you guys might laugh at me. I did go through a little bit of a wrestling phase. I got to meet Jesse James and the badass Billy Gunn. Oh, I was excited. The tag team champions of the world. I was very excited there for 15 seconds that I got to meet. I was a big wrestling fan when I was a kid. I was more excited to meet Billy Gunn than I was Trish Stratus. Those are the only wrestlers that I met. But Jennifer Aniston is a really, really good one. I completely understand. Tyler, I want to hear from you. I'm trying to learn you guys. I'm trying to understand. I want to be a part of the You Better You Bet family, but I got to learn more about my family members. Who's your 90s crush? Who's the person, if you saw them at Mandalay Bay, you're going to stop whatever you were doing, I got to go over there, I got to take a picture?
So this is funny that you actually brought this up, because when Nick asked us this question maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, and I was a huge wrestling fan, and I'm only 31, so I was a little younger in the 90s. My answer was Trish Stratus or Stacy Keibler. So that was at here. So your cousin's actually right up my lane right there. So those are my two. I was a massive wrestling fan. Don't watch it anymore. When I was younger though, those two were my favorites. So I completely agree with what happened for you this weekend. I would have done the same exact thing.
No, okay, makes sense. I mean, Trish Stratus, I'll show you the picture. You got to see it. My cousin, the smirk he has on his face, you can tell life complete now. Kenny, we're coming to you here, and we'll get back to basketball. Who's your 90s? Who's your Topanga? Who's your crush? I'll even throw out some alternate ones. I think I would go that way for Hillary Banks, too. I went through a Hillary Banks phase, too. I love Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It's my show. I don't love her on the same level that I love Topanga, but I did go through a Hillary Banks phase. Who's your 90s? Who's your I'm willing to stop everything. I want to take a picture with this person.
Well, I was born in '99, and growing up, Transformers, Megan Fox, that was the first one for me, really. And then obviously anything she was ever in from that would probably be it. But now that I think about it, if I was in that setting, I would honestly play it nonchalantly and be like, she doesn't want anything to do with me, so I'm good. I'm just gonna play it cool here.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Well, you know what? We learned that there is one person that saw the movies Jennifer's Body. That's what we learned on today's show. We might not learn anything, but the one person watched Jennifer's Body. That was Kitty. Let's talk about this really quickly. The NCAA, they have started the final steps. They are planning on expanding the men's and women's NCAA basketball tournament to 76 teams. This is per ESPN. That is expected to begin next season. This is from Pete Thamel. Quote, they have what they need to move forward. There are more quotes, but we don't really need to get into it. Maybe this is my soapbox stance, because I always have to find something to complain about the NCAA. It was that they weren't properly compensating students, but we have long passed that problem. Now they're announcing their announcement on Inside the NBA, and they're already sponsored by NBA 2K and Panini. So, I mean, the compensation part we have figured out when it comes to the NCAA. I don't know why sports think that we have a playoff problem. We don't have a playoff problem. We have a regular season problem. You never need to add more intrigue to the postseason. It's the pursuit for a championship. You have been watching all of the episodes, and now we get to the finale of the show. You have spent the last 4 months following this thing, and now we are going to reach the conclusion, and only one team can win at the end. You never needed to sprinkle more excitement on top of the postseason, it already inherently has it. It is a single elimination tournament that if your team loses, your season is over. You've been watching college basketball since early November. It is now the middle of March. Every 2 to 3 days, you are watching your team play. I never needed you to enhance that experience because it already was amazing. Why college basketball and why these sports are so focused on trying to make the playoffs better as opposed to how do we guarantee that we can keep people's interest in the regular season is beyond me. I don't want anybody to have this confused and think that expanding the NCAA tournament is a win for the little guys. They are not doing this so they can help Miami of Ohio make the NCAA tournament. They are not doing this for a random MAC school or Missouri State out of the Missouri Valley Conference. No. This is what they won't tell you about why they're expanding the NCAA tournament. They have expanded the SEC past where it needed to be. They have expanded the Big Ten past where it needed to be. So in order to justify how you can let the 12th and the 13th place team into the NCAA tournament, that they would have been the third or fourth team in the Pac-12, but now that you have absorbed those teams into your conference, in order to make everybody happy, you had to expand the NCAA tournament. Because it just wasn't fair. I mean, all the travel, and now our basketball conference is so much more difficult, and now we can't make the NCAA tournament. That's life. Now, I got to throw a quick shot at my guy, Bill, and I don't want him to take this the wrong way, but I heard Bill's generation tell Kenny's generation how bad these participation trophies were, how these participation trophies were ruining society, that this generation coming up was so soft, and they had to deal with real life. Well, you know what I've seen Bill's generation do? I've seen Bill's generation make it where you can be 5-7 and make bowl games, and I've seen Bill's generation absorb the NIT into the NCAA tournament. That sounds like a participation trophy to me. You know where Auburn should be? As far away from the NCAA tournament as possible. They don't need to be anywhere near the NCAA tournament. Send their ass to the CBI tournament where they need to be. Send them to the NIT playing on ESPN on Tuesday at 5 p.m. That's where they need to be. They don't need to be in anybody's NCAA tournament. We don't want this. And you know what I also hate? I hate that now they have beaten us down so much in sports where they make every decision about money. That we have now demonized the kids when they make decisions that are for their financial interest. Oh, something's wrong with the system. These kids are greedy. They have no loyalty. When we've seen the NCAA do nothing but make moves that enhance their own pockets, it's just, I hate it. I really do. I hate it. We justify all of their moves by, well, they're going to make more money. Is there really a market to watching 2 11 seeds play on Tuesday on True TV after Mythbusters? I'm serious. I'm not trying to be funny. Is there a market, you guys think, for watching 2 bottom third Big 12 and SEC teams play each other on Wednesday at 7 p.m. on True TV after they just finish a marathon of bar rescue? This is going to make the NCAA more money. No, we are going in the wrong direction. No, this is wrong. This is bad for everybody. Nobody wants this. Bill, I'll throw it to you. I didn't mean to shoot at you in that way. I hope you know it comes from a place of love. But you know that your generation told us how bad these participation trophies were, and now they want 25 teams to make the playoff in college football, and they want every D1 team to make it in Division I basketball. Enough's enough.
Yeah, look, I'll go back to this. I'll say 64 teams was the perfect bracket. That was it for me. I thought they had the thing perfect. And then 98 or 99, whatever it was, the WAC split into the WAC and the Mountain West. And all the big conferences flipped out because there was going to be an extra automatic berth. And yeah, like you said, the Auburns of the world were sitting there going, we can't miss the tournament. So they expanded it to 65. Then, of course, they go to 68. Now it's going to 76. At this point, to me, like Carrington, like I don't care I agree with you. I'm not dying for low-level Big 12 versus SEC, but there's plenty of sickos that love this show, and they love that kind of stuff. Nick Kostos, if they expanded to 128 games, or 128 teams, he'd be thrilled. More games, he's happier. I think Tyler and Kenny might be the same way. To me, I would have been happy at 64, but now at this point, 68, 76, 88, I don't even know what the difference is. To me, the tournament's always going to start on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm looking at last year. So somebody pulled up if they had done this for last year, listen to these matchups. This is what we want. It would have been NC State, Texas, SMU, Miami of Ohio, Auburn, Indiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, San Diego State, Cincinnati, Tulsa, Seton Hall. You know what this sounds like? This sounds like a preseason tournament in November is what this sounds like. You want that at the end of the season too? That's what this sounds. This sounds like a random tournament that they play on some random channel that you don't have. ESPNU. This is a preseason basketball tournament in Des Moines, Iowa, or Idaho. This is awful. I cannot believe no one wants this. Please, NCAA. I know that there's people like me that take shots at you guys, but what we don't want is a Tuesday and Wednesday CBS Sports Network tournament that you guys have come up with. That's not what we want. That's not what we want. This is not good. This is not. This is bad. This is really, really bad. I gotta fight the power. This is my soapbox stance of the day. I stand by this message. Coming up on the other side, let's recap a little bit of the NFL draft. I do think there was a clear theme in this year's NFL draft. I'll tell you what it is. You were listening to You Bet or You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Let me tell you guys that this segment is sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance, protecting your business vehicles 24/7. See if you can save at progressivecommercial.com. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we are going to be joined by EJ Snyder. We're going to continue to take a closer look at the NFL draft. I think something so clearly happened in the top 10 picks. Now, it seems very obvious. It seems very straightforward, but sometimes I think we have so much information when it comes to the NFL draft, and we have so much time to fill discussing the NFL draft that sometimes it is important to remember to stick to the basics. You know, a thought just hit me this week as I was wrapping up kind of NFL draft stuff. We spend almost as much time preparing for the draft as we do watching the season. The season is really broken up into 3 sections. Section 1 is the games. Section 2 is the offseason, free agency, the draft, mock drafts, preparing for it. And then we spend 4 months convincing yourself that your team is going to be good. That's the phase that we are about to get into. We're about to get into, starting May 1st, for the next 4 months, it is going to be Jets fans convincing themselves they have a chance to be good. It is Cardinals fans thinking, you know what, with this schedule, no, your team's not going to be good. I know it, you know it. But that's just the cycle that we have in the National Football League. There was a clear message, I think, was sent. Don't overthink it. Take the best player. That's simple. I think it was really that clear. Look at how the draft fell in the top 10 picks. The number 1 overall pick, Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback, the best prospect in this year's class, the most important position on the field. We never spent any time entertaining the possibility that the Raiders were going to take somebody else. There was only one selection for them. Heisman Trophy winner, gritty, I think gives you a very, very good floor. Fernando Mendoza was the number 1 overall pick. At number 2, are you going to take the best defensive player on the board? Now, we had a debate on who we thought that was. I was on the side of David Bailey. Maybe you were on the side of Arvell Reese. Perfectly fine. But I thought those were the 2 best defensive players in this draft class. The Jets, I thought, were pretty clearly going to go defense. You take the guy who you think is the best. They took who they thought was the best, David Bailey. Moving on to the number 3 overall pick. Jeremiah Love, I think, is the best prospect on this board. If you were telling me right now that one of the players from the top 10 goes on to be a Hall of Fame player, who do you think that is? I think the answer is pretty clearly Jeremiah Love. He is the best running back in this class. He is the best player in this class. I could see a scenario where Jeremiah Love for the next 9 years runs for over 1,000 yards in 8 of those years, as an all-pro a couple of times, and we look at him as being the best running back in the National Football League. So don't overthink it. I know we talk about positional value and second contract. Just take the best players and things will work out. That is what Arizona did with the number 3 overall pick. At number 4, Carnell Tate. Let's not overthink it. We drafted a quarterback last year. Let's go get something to go with that quarterback. Let's go get the best skilled player on the board. Let's go get Carnell Tate. Also a player that would seem to have a very high floor just because of where he went to school. If there is something that Ohio State does, it is develop wide receivers. This is the 5th consecutive season in which an Ohio State wide receiver has been selected in the first round. Now, I don't think he's the same prospect that Marvin Harrison was. I don't think he's JSN or Emeka Egbuka, but Carnell Tate with the 4th overall pick, you could do way worse if you were Tennessee. At number 5, the Giants take the best defensive player on the board. The Chiefs, who are in the top 10 for the first time in a while. Maybe you're not in a position to take this caliber of player again. Let's go get the best cornerback on the board after we let Jalen Watson go, after we let Trent McDuffie go. They spend the 6th overall pick on a corner. Sonny Styles, best defensive player on the board. Jordan Tyson, best skill position player on the board. Browns go offensive line. Giants go offensive line. There was just not a lot of alternate routes taken in the top 10. We get there eventually once you get out of the elite prospects, but I think the thought process in the draft was very, very simple. Take the best player available. I don't think there were any reaches. I don't think there were any picks that make you really scratch your head early on. It was, let's take who we think is the best player on our board. Let's do that. Let's talk about the 20th overall pick in Mekhi Lemon, and I want to play a game here really quickly with the guys. The Eagles are just really, really good at this. When I was a kid, I used to really love Scooby-Doo. And if you remember at the end of Scooby-Doo, whenever they would tell us who actually committed the caper, they would always say, man, I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids. That's kind of how I think the Eagles just operate. Like, they are just so smarter than everybody else. They just get away with all of these things. It is incredible what they do. Mekhi Lemon, I thought Mekhi Lemon was going to go 13th overall to the Rams. Like, it just made all the sense in the world. You put that guy in McVay's offense, you give your quarterback more weapons. I thought Mekhi Lemon was going to go to the Los Angeles Rams. They go in a different direction. He's then fallen down the board a little bit. Now, Pittsburgh was thinking about drafting him, and Pittsburgh has a very, very good track record when it comes to wide receiver. But, oh, no, Howie Roseman, that sneaky fellow, just creeps up, tiptoes up there. Next thing you know, snatches Mekhi Lemon for the Steelers. You would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those pesky Eagles. Now look at the second round. You've got Dallas Goedert, very good tight end, but, it's getting up there a little bit. Well, what do you know? They just go out there, and then they get the best tight end on the board, a guy who I actually thought was the best tight end. I know everybody loved Kenyon Sadiq. The physical traits were off the charts, but Eli Stowers was a much better college tight end than him, just doesn't have the physical traits. You go pick him up. So with your first pick, you go get a top wide receiver, who I think actually has a chance of being the best wide receiver in this draft class, especially given the situation that he was drafted into. And then in the second round, you go get a tight end that I think can help and can contribute from day one. How do the Eagles continue to do this? Then I look at another very good organization in the Seattle Seahawks. They didn't really seem interested in paying Kenneth Walker what the market says that he was worth. They let Kenneth Walker move on. He now signs in Kansas City for the fourth highest running back contract in league history. What do the Seahawks do? Oh, yeah, we're going to take the second best running back in this class. I mean, this is what good organizations do. Good organizations just stick to their board, and they get what we deem to be really, really good value. Mekhi Lemon with the 20th overall pick is just phenomenal value. Getting Jadarian Price with the 32nd overall pick is just tremendous value. This is what good, smart organizations do. Before we're joined by EJ Snyder, I want to play a really, really quick game. We're going to go down the line. Bill, Tyler, Kenny, I will pick a different quarterback for each of you. We're going to call this better or worse. We're on You Better You Bet. We are going to play You Better You Worse. That's what we're going to play. Bill, we will start with you. The Raiders spent the number 1 overall pick on Fernando Mendoza. Do you think he will be better or worse than Bo Nix?
I'm not the biggest Bo Nix fan. I will say better than Bo Nix.
Okay, so you have better than Bo Nix. Tyler, we will move down the line here. We'll play the game with Fernando Mendoza. Do you think he will be better or worse than Brock Purdy?
Oh, better. I think he's better than Brock Purdy.
Okay. All right. Better than Brock Purdy here. You know what? I'm starting to learn this show very high on Fernando Mendoza. Better than Bo Nix, better than Brock Purdy. All right. We'll go down the line here. Kenny, I'll give you one last quarterback. Do you think that Fernando Mendoza will be better or worse than Dak Prescott?
No chance to be better than Dak Prescott. That's where we'll draw the line.
Okay, we're drawing the line at Dak Prescott there. All right, okay, I'm just asking. I don't know where you guys sit on some of these quarterbacks. So we're saying Dak is the bar. He's going to come in below this. All right, we'll go around the board. I'll ask everybody the same quarterback. Bill, we'll start with you. We'll do Drake May. Will Fernando Mendoza be better or worse than Drake May?
Worse than Drake May. Not even close. He's not going to be in that tier.
Tyler, better or worse than Drake May?
No, worse. Yeah, I agree with Bill.
Kenny, same thing.
Worse. Yeah, Drake May just played in the Super Bowl in his second year. I don't think Fernando Mendoza is going to sniff anything like that.
Okay, all right. We have to, you know what? Let's put our heads together and let's find out who this quarterback is that's better than Bo Nix and Brock Purdy, but not better than Drake May or Dak Prescott. I'm sure this quarterback exists in the National Football League. We will all put our heads together and we will try to figure out who this quarterback is. Like, I'm now racking my brain to try to figure out who this person is that we could be potentially talking about. Like, this might be like prime Tua or prime Marcus Mariota. We will come back to this exercise. Jared Goff is a very interesting one. I actually don't think he will be better than Jared Goff. I think Goff is going to be better than Fernando Mendoza. Coming up on the other side, we're going to be joined by EJ Snyder, who covers the NFL draft. Certainly a lot to get to him about. We'll also be joined by David Shepard coming up at the top of the hour. We'll get back to the NBA playoffs. That's all coming up on You Better You Bet.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
We're going to be joined by EJ Snyder here coming up momentarily to talk some NFL draft. Let me remind you guys that when the games get bigger and the crowds get louder and the excitement reaches a new level, be a part of the playoff action when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. You can download the BetMGM app today. We have a handful of games coming up later today in the NBA. We have Magic and Pistons. We have Raptors and Cavs, Lakers and Rockets. The Magic have a chance to close out that series. So do the Lakers, and the Raptors and Cavs series is tied at 2 apiece. David Shepard is going to join us coming up at the top of the hour. We'll get back into the NBA playoffs. But let's head right now to be joined by EJ Snyder to talk a little bit of NFL draft. EJ, happy to have you on the show today.
Carrington, thanks for having me. I'm excited to do it.
Absolutely. So let's start on the positive. Give me a handful of teams that you liked their draft.
Yeah, actually, this year it wasn't that hard to find teams that I really liked their draft. For our annual Best Drafts recap podcast that we do on Bootleg Football, I had 10 teams that I had to narrow down for 5 spots, and that's pretty good. And there were another 6 teams that I was looking at for honorable mention. So when you start with that, it's basically half the league had pretty good drafts. But if I had to put my top 5 up, not particularly in any order, it would be Bucks, Jets, Lions, Chiefs, and Panthers.
I saw a lot of draft experts like yourself that really likes Cleveland draft, but then made me think it's not going to work out for Cleveland. It's just not going to work out for them.
It's funny what we think going in, and again, draft grades, I understand why they're done. They have to be done. They create clicks. They create engagement. You can't really grade players because you don't know the answer to the test. I think Lance Zierlein said that. When you're talking about grading players, it's to a test that hasn't been issued yet. So grades are one thing, but I really liked what Cleveland did in terms of the players they brought in. Now, whether or not they develop those players and fit them into their system, that's a different thing entirely.
Let's now flip it on the other side. Give me a handful of teams that made you scratch your head when it came to the NFL draft.
For sure. There were 3 teams in particular, the Cards, the Jags, and the Rams. And look, the Cardinals have $63 million fully guaranteed in their running back room. That's an absurd number. It's leading the league by at least $15 million, and pretty soon it's going to be closer to $20 million. That's just not great resource management. It's nothing against the player. Jeremiah Love, fantastic talent, probably one of the most talented players in this draft overall. But in terms of resource management, that's pretty odd. The rest of their draft I didn't love. There were some players I liked, but Carson Beck is a really interesting choice given where they are. They basically had to do something at the quarterback position. That's not the swing I would have taken. The Jags see player evaluation very differently than the rest of the league. If they keep winning, a la San Francisco, who has also had some questionable draft history of late, everything will be forgiven. If in San Francisco, Shanahan covers that up, Brock Purdy makes up the difference. If they keep winning with Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, nobody will question it. If they don't, if they fall off from last year, if they post a losing win total overall, the questions are going to mount really, really quickly because Wonder Kid status melts in the NFL faster than almost anything else. And the Rams, picking Ty Simpson, I know we're going to talk about it in a little bit. In the first round, it just raises a lot of questions that we'll talk through, but it was definitely the head-scratching move of the first round.
Right now, we're recapping the NFL draft with EJ Snyder. Let's just stay here with Ty Simpson. I really see both sides of the issue. I see that the Rams, who usually don't pick this high in the NFL draft, they are in a position where they can stash a quarterback that they really like, but you're also in a position where you could have added a Reuben Bain, you could have added a Mekhi Lemon, you could have added a player that could have helped you right now to help you get over the hump. It sounds to me like you were on that side of the argument more so than this is the player to stash for the future.
Carrington, I'm with you. I'm actually on both sides of this one. I see both sides, but I'm not sure I would have ended up picking Ty Simpson at 13. It's an odd selection. It puts a ton of pressure both on the player and the team. If Simpson's anything less than a starting, winning quarterback for the Rams, the pick's going to be viewed as a bust because he was picked at 13. There is no margin for error. If you pick a quarterback in that range in the top half of the first round, he has to start games for your team and he has to win, or else. There isn't anything else. If Stafford continues to play at a high level, and this is where it gets really tricky and the Rams are on the fence because we all know Matthew Stafford's health, touch and go each offseason, but then he came out and played at an MVP level. So if he plays another 2 years, you wasted a good chunk of the most valuable resource in sports, which is a rookie quarterback window for an NFL team. And if he has to play because Stafford gets injured and he's not ready or he's not good, for a team in a competitive window right now, everybody's going to raise the questions you did about, hey, we could have had other support here that was going to help us out. What are you doing picking this guy at 13 overall?
EJ, is there another player other than Ty Simpson that you're surprised they went as high in the draft as they did?
We go right back to the Jags and Nate Borkshire, who's the tight end that they selected, started a run of wide tight ends, so maybe they were just getting ahead of the curve. But again, that particular player, one of the best blockers in this draft out of Texas A&M, older player, didn't have a ton of production, doesn't have great measurables. I mean, he's big, but he's not particularly fast or agile. So again, when you're picking a tight end that high, top of day 2, you're looking for all of those things. You're looking for receiving potential. You're looking for a little bit of game breaking if you can get it. You're not just looking for the most competent blocking tight end in the draft. Now, they think that's in there and they can unlock it. They said as much. I'm not so sure. So that was another one where I was like, oh, okay, you liked him a lot more than a lot of other people.
Right now, we're recapping the NFL draft with EJ Snyder. I don't know if there is a wrong decision, but do you think the Jets made the right decision going Bailey over Reese at 2?
I don't know if there's a wrong decision either. Again, they have a lot of information on these guys and have had for 3+ years. That's the thing I think a lot of fans forget is that teams are not new to these players. They've been talking to them for the last 2 or 3 seasons. They've been at their spring game and their junior pro day and everything else. They've talked to their family and their high school coaches. When it comes right down to it and you're in that position, the position the Jets are in at the top of the draft, looking for a talent to turn your team around, you've got to go with player fit, and you've also got to go with who the person is, especially in the top 10. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny again. If Bailey doesn't work out and Arvell Reese becomes an absolute monster, there will be more questions about the Jets, and it could cost that regime their job eventually. I think they got the pass rusher who is more ready to go right now. I think Arvell Reese has a higher ceiling, but in terms of if you just want to plug and play and you don't want to be terribly creative with what you do with him on defense, you're going to line him up and rush him, stunt him, all typical sort of defensive end edge things. Bailey is the more polished player at that right now, and that's the caveat. And they chose that so that they could hit the ground running.
No one has any questions about the player, Jeremiah Love. Do you like the pick selecting him at number 3?
It's tough. Again, it's a little bit like the Ty Simpson pick. And with the Cardinals, like I said, where their salary cap is and in terms of how you're basically divvying up money between the offense and the defense, premium positions and less premium positions, it's really rugged. Their entire running back room counts for $63 million in guaranteed money. That's a lot. Now, that's not all this season, but that's all money that their owner has to pay. It very much felt like their owner was probably involved in this pick. Look, skill position players at the top of the draft is a very good way to sell tickets. If you're not going to be a great football team, you can sort of sell the hope of, hey, we got one of the best offensive talents in the draft. You should come fill the seats and see him. So I understand it. Again, very good player. I don't know that he's going to be utilized to his full potential this year. And again, it's basically kind of creating the nest for their quarterback of the future, which they intend to select next year to say, hey, you've got everything you need. We've got a little bit more offensive line talent. We've got a ton of skill position talent here. We're just going to drop that final piece in of the quarterback, and then that's going to power the engine. So that's the way they're looking at it. But unfortunately for Jeremiah Love, his first year might look a lot like Ashton Genty's first year, maybe a little bit better, but we're not going to get to see his true full potential until probably next season.
Right now, we're talking with EJ Snyder. He is the co-creator of Bootleg Football. He covers the NFL draft. We'll get to the NBA playoffs coming up at the top of the hour. These two teams are going to be competing in the same division, so it's only fair that we put them in a toss-up against one another. They both were in the NFC East, both had first-round picks. Which team do you think did a better job in round one? Do you think it was the New York Giants or the Dallas Cowboys?
Oh, I actually like both of their drafts, but I'm going to lean slightly Giants. Again, I really like the Cowboys picks. They got a pass rusher who I think is underrated and was certainly very highly valued in NFL circles, maybe even more so than in draft circles. So, but the Giants' first four is pretty ridiculous when you're talking about Reese, Maui Noah, Colton Hood, and Malachi Fields to start your draft. Extremely strong. So both teams did good work to move themselves along. If I've got to pick it in a toss-up, I'll go with the Giants.
You mentioned Kansas City as a team whose draft you really, really liked. I like their aggressiveness in going up to go get Mansour Delane. I also like the fact that I think the Chiefs had a plan of we need to retool our defense, and they had 9 picks. They used up 7 of them on the defensive side of the ball. I think the Chiefs have pretty clearly set themselves up for the second half of Mahomes' career where they plan on running the football more effectively and being a much younger, aggressive defense.
Yeah, they added a lot of new pieces, and I like those pieces. Peter Woods was a bit of a gamble up at the top in terms of the fact that he had a very good 2024. His 2025 was not great, and his pre-draft process was about as bad as it could be. The Chiefs are really betting he gets back to that 2024 form when he was on preseason All-American lists and was definitely considered a top half of the first-round draft pick. He ends up going in the bottom half. Again, if he pans out, that'll be great on their defensive line, but they also went and picked up R. Mason Thomas, who is sort of against type, more of a fireball rusher off the edge. They've typically gone for the taller, longer, stronger edges. This is, again, a sort of zig when they used to zag, and I think that's a good thing. It shakes it up for the Chiefs defense. Followed it up with Jaden Kennedy, one of my favorite defensive backs in this draft, who I spoke pretty highly of even before I went down to the Oregon Pro Day. And then afterwards, I kept asking people, why don't you have this guy rated higher? Obviously, the NFL thought the same. And then you said the rushing attack has to be better. It was terrible last year. And they go and get Emmett Johnson, who, look, in a down year for running back, was one of the best and most versatile running backs in this entire class. Very good as a rusher, productive, efficient, also good in the pass game, good in pass pro as well. I think he's going to get a pretty heavy workload in Kansas City.
I'll get you out of here with these last couple of questions. The first question is going to be this. Every year, I used to fall for the Pac-12 quarterback. I fell for Joey Harrington. I fell for Matt Leinart. I fell for Josh Rosen. I don't know how that conference could hoodwink me every single time. Who is a prospect that you were just certain was going to be a good NFL player and it just didn't work out?
Oh, boy. There's a lot of those. I've been doing this for 16 years. Let's see. I'm going to go probably running back, one of my favorite positions. And Roschon Johnson went to the Bears, and he had tremendous stats. And yes, he played behind Bijan at Texas, but even when he got his chances, he made the most of them. And look, it's largely been an injury situation, but I was absolutely positive he was going to be at least a very good RB2 in the NFL. And it just hasn't happened. He's probably going to end up getting released from the Bears, and not necessarily this year, but next year. He might not make final cuts this year, and I was 100% sure of his NFL prospects. Goes to show you that the NFL draft, there are no certainties.
You probably remember this name, but I grew up in Kansas City, and there was a draft where the Chiefs fans really wanted Aaron Curry, the linebacker out of Wake Forest. He was their number one. Everybody wanted him. And the Chiefs that year ended up getting Derek Johnson. Chiefs fans were so mad that that's where they ended up going. But Aaron Curry didn't really work out the way people thought it was going to work out.
No, Aaron Curry, 4th overall, I believe, ends up, he's a coach in the NFL now. And the team that gave him the first chance to break back into coaching was the team that drafted him. They stayed loyal to him, even though he did not have anywhere near the career that I think everybody expected. He's a classic one because I don't know anybody that had Aaron Curry outside of the top half of the first round. He was that transcendent as an interior linebacker, and it just didn't pan out in the NFL. Skills didn't translate, and it happens for multiple reasons, but the pre-draft consensus on him was so incredibly high, and the actual return in the NFL was really, really low.
That is E.J. Snyder. He is the co-creator of Bootleg Football. He's been covering the draft for 16 years, recapping this year's draft. E.J., great stuff, man. We'll catch up with you down the line.
Thanks, Carrington. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That is EJ Snyder joining us on the show today. Coming up at the top of the hour, we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs with David Shepard. He's going to join us here coming up in a little bit. Let me tell you that I fell for it so hard with Matt Leinart. Remember Matt Leinart coming out of USC? He fell a little bit in the draft. He got picked 10th overall to Arizona. He had Larry Fitzgerald and Anquan Bolden as his 1 and 2. I thought that Matt Leinart was just going to be an absolute star in the league. It just never worked out that way. I used to just always fall for the Pac-12 quarterback. I loved Marcus Mariota. It just didn't really work out. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's those late nights staying up. I wasn't getting enough oxygen to my brain. I fell for that Pac-12 flavor of the year every single year. Let's reset things. Let's get back to the NBA playoffs. We got a handful of important games coming up later today. Keep it right here on You Bet or You Bet.
This is You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back into the show. My name is Carrington Harrison, filling in for Nick Kostos on You Bet or You Bet. Let's get back to the NBA playoffs. Coming up in a bit, we'll talk about LeBron James. He sat down and did an 8-part interview with ESPN. There is a quote that is circulating. We'll get to that quote coming up in just a bit. But let's talk some NBA playoffs with David Shepard. Shep, how you doing, my man?
Carrington Harrison, always a pleasure to be with you, my friend. And LeBron James and ESPN are getting along. The sports world just got that much better.
Yeah, it's always up and down with the relationship between those two, you know?
Yes. Yes, you could say that again. He's been known to hold a few grudges if you don't report the way he sees fit, but it's good to see in his wiser older years, at least by NBA terms, that things are going well for both parties. So
Shepard, I always like to tell people a random fact about things. I would like to tell you that 21 years ago to the day, on the show TRL, I know you used to watch TRL back in the day, their number one song was by Korn. It was called Here to Stay. Were you a Korn fan as a kid?
I was a fan of the food, not necessarily the music rendition.
Okay, I didn't know. You seem like a kid that came home, watched a little TRL, watched a little 106 in Park, and also watched Sports Center. You seem like that kind of kid.
Well, I appreciate that. See, we look young, man. So you and I are children born in the '80s. So we go way back. But I must say, man, we're looking pretty young, especially you. I got to shave the beard. Maybe I can shave off a few years if that's the case.
So let's talk about the NBA here. Let's start with the Eastern Conference, and let's start with the Pistons, who are absolutely on the ropes. Are you surprised at the way that series is playing its way out?
Carrington, I'm not surprised. I'm shocked. This is a 60-win team. Cade Cunningham has been easily one of the best 5 or 6 players this entire season. Even when he goes down with the collapsed lung, Jalen Duren steps right in, looks like the first-time All-Star he's been this season. They go 7-1 when Cade goes down. They go up against a Magic team that couldn't get by a Celtics team without any of their starters in regular season game number 82. They can't get by a Philadelphia 76ers team without Joel Embiid. And then they go into Detroit and punch them in the mouth in game number 1 and then win convincingly in that fourth quarter in game 3 and game 4. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm shocked. This is a 60-win Detroit Piston team. They have been the beast of the East all season. They're about to get gentlemen swept. That's what it seems like right now. Man, you win your first home playoff game in 18 years, and this is the gift you give your fan base 5 days later. It's unbelievable, Carrington.
It's funny because, there were so many signs with the Pistons, I think, in the regular season. They needed a true second scorer. They didn't go get one at the trade deadline. They also needed shooting and somebody that could space the floor, and they decided to sit on their hands. Sometimes the decisions that you make in February, they end up costing you in April, and that's what's happening to the Pistons.
Yeah, look who you had last year. We can spend a whole other hour talking about Malik Beasley, but this would have come in handy having him on the floor, right? Having Tim Hardaway Sr. last year, a rightful 6th Man of the Year candidate. And the reality is Jalen Duren has been a shell of himself. This is a guy against the Knicks team last year in the postseason that was putting up 12 points per game and 11 rebounds per game. The playoff high he has is 12 points. In the 4 games Jalen Duren has played, the high that he has put up is 12 points. This is a cat that was one of just 4 guys in the NBA this season to put up 20 points per game and 11 rebounds per game. The other 3 guys, Carrington Harrison, Karl Anthony Towns, Nikola Jokic, and some 22-year-old named Victor Wembanyama. That's the kind of regular season that Jalen Duren had. So to your point, yes, they should have maybe picked up a second scorer throughout the regular season, which would have carried over to the playoffs. But you did kind of have that second scorer in Jalen Duren that has rightfully stepped into that role. But that has been nowhere to be found in these first 4 games of the NBA playoffs. And it's a shame because he's coming up with a supermax potential contract. I don't know if it's going to go according to plan for the Duren family based off what we've seen in these first 4 games. He has got to step up and be that guy that we saw in the regular season. Has not been the case in the first 4 games.
I'll give you another 90s, 2000s reference. I don't know if you remember Miss Cleo or not, but I spoke to Miss Cleo yesterday, and she told me that the Orlando Magic are going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. They're going to beat the Pistons, and they're going to beat whoever comes out of that Cleveland-Toronto series as well.
So Carrington, you were a longtime host at CBS Sports Radio / Infinity Sports Network. There is a caller who also goes by the name of Miss Cleo. So if you're listening right now to Carrington Harrison on Westwood One, call in because we need that prediction to be reinforced. Yeah, the Toronto-Cleveland series, that's been interesting, man, because, Donovan Mitchell looks lights out along with James Harden, and then they play Toronto, and Toronto just, scorches earth against them in that fourth quarter in games 3 and games 4. No one saw that series tied right now. This could be the easiest pathway that Donovan Mitchell has had in his 9-year NBA career of getting to a conference final, something he hasn't done so far. And the reality is, Toronto, this is an interesting series, Carrington, because Brandon Ingram hasn't showed up yet. And this series is tied 2-2. So this should be a cakewalk for the Cleveland Cavaliers to get to an Eastern Conference Finals. And what a concept that would be if James Harden and Donovan Mitchell actually show up in his second round for once.
Right now, we're talking NBA playoffs with David Shepard, who covers the NBA. That Raptors and Cavs series, it's just a series where I don't really trust any of the stars to show up at this time. I don't trust Donovan Mitchell. I don't trust James Harden. I don't trust Brandon Ingram. I don't trust the Raptors. Like, this feels like, you remember when NBA TV used to have a series? This feels like that series that would have been relegated to NBA TV. We wouldn't even have been watching this series 5 years ago.
Right, but that's the thing, man. If so, there is that narrative out there, and it's fair and it's valid. But at the same time, if you are Toronto, you're coming off a season where you exceeded expectations. You had 30 wins in 2025. You have a plus 16 win differential in 2026. You make the playoffs. You got a great young core in R.J. Barrett and Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram and IQ, aka Emmanuel Quickley. I wish he was healthy this series. But if you're Toronto, you should be playing with a chip on your shoulder because it hasn't been great times the last few years for this organization. And then if you're Cleveland, Carrington, you're a big NBA guy. You know the biggest disappointment in terms of superstar play for the postseason the last 2 decades has been James Harden. He is the one guy you look at and say the regular season version of the beard does not align with what we've seen in the postseason version of the beard. This is an opportunity in year number 17 for him to right all those wrongs. And so this is absolutely his time along with Donovan Mitchell. And you talk about Evan Mobley, you talk about Jared Allen, you talk about Max Juice Strus. Like, this Cleveland team, you look at the talent, they're right there with any other team in the East, including Boston, including New York, obviously including Detroit. This should be their year. So it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out. And if you're Toronto, you're like the best kept secret. No one really pays attention to you nationally, but you got 2 All-Stars on that squad. Now, Brandon Ingram hasn't played like an All-Star yet in this postseason series. But if you're one of these 2 teams, this is an opportunity to change the narrative for good. And if you're James Harden, it's got to piss him off, Carrington, that for the last 5 years, we've always celebrated the great trio of Steph, of LeBron, of KD. James Harden was right there with those guys in terms of regular season success. And he's got to be pissed that all those 3 guys get all the love and all the praise and all the adulation, and he's kind of stuck as an ugly stepchild. Maybe for once he changes that based on his postseason play. He doesn't have Chris Paul, so that's going to work against him. That's the only time James Harden has been relevant in the playoffs, minus KD and minus Russell Westbrook.
Which one of these series do you think is most likely to head to Game 7? Let's keep it in the East. Do you think it's Knicks and Hawks or Celtics and Sixers?
Fair question. Man, those Boston Celtics, 11 fourth quarter points. Carrington, you go to Philly and you beat them by an average margin of 20 points per game in games 3 and games 4 and look like the ultimate road warriors and look like you're going to absolutely clean house in game number 5 and take care of business on your home court. Man, the Boston Celtics, they got to be seething right now. You talk about absolutely getting dismantled in that fourth quarter. And so that's why I don't see that series necessarily going Game 7. But my God, if Joel Embiid can look like the 2023 regular season MVP version of Joel Embiid in Game 6, it's going 7. But I just don't know if we can expect that consistency from him at this point of his career, especially with that long absence dealing with that appendectomy. The Knicks, Hawks, CJ McCollum's due. He's due, Carrington. This is a guy that was scorching the Knicks in games 2 and games 3. He was the best player in that series in those 2 games. And then game 5, he gets outscored 39-6. I was on a campaign of making him the best non-NBA All-Star in NBA history. And he makes me look bad like this by showing up in game 5 and having just 6 points. He's not getting outscored by Jalen Brunson 39-6 again. And Karl Anthony Towns, he's been great in the last 2 first halves, which has been all the difference for the New York Knicks. but I ultimately see the series that goes 7 is going to be Atlanta and New York because they're due, the Atlanta Hawks, and Jalen Johnson is due. This is an all-NBA performer that has not had one single game this postseason where he has looked all-NBA. But, Carrington, I would not be surprised if both end up going 7. But the likelihood of it going 7 is most appropriate for that Knicks-Hawks series.
We threw this question out earlier, and I'm interested to hear your answer is, every basketball fan has their what if. Yours might be Penny Hardaway. Yours might be Derrick Rose. Yours might be, hey, this guy was going to be a superstar. This guy was going to be one of the 10 greatest players of all time, but injury derailed his career. I think for a lot of people, that player is going to be Joel Embiid. I think he's been the next best great center of his era behind Nikola Jokic. I'll throw this out to you. Who is your what-if player? If you could press a button and you can ensure that they stay healthy for their NBA career, who's that player for you?
So I heard you talk about that with Danny Parkinson. It's great to always see you guys back and forth, by the way. Can I go old school? Can I go ahead of Derrick Rose, Penny, Grant Hill, T-Mac? You know the guy I'm thinking of? Carrington, I'm going to give you a hint. Twin Towers, but not the San Antonio Spurs Twin Towers. The original Twin Towers in the mid-1980s. Hakeem Olajuwon.
You're going Ralph Sampson here.
Yes.
Ralph Sampson, yeah.
100%. Carrington, we talk all the time about Victor Wembanyama, and he is without question one of one. For him to have 7 blocks in game number 4 and 6 blocks in game number 5, and making it seem like he's playing volleyball out there with how easy it is for him to spike these basketballs in the fourth quarter. But the guy that was Victor Wembanyama before Wemby was Ralph Sampson, and injuries derailed him. And it's amazing. We talk about the golden era of basketball all the time in the 1980s with Magic and Larry, and Isaiah certainly deserves to be mentioned as part of that conversation. Michael Jordan obviously coming late to the party. But the team that would have been a problem for the next 10 or 15 years would have been Ralph Sampson and Hakeem Olajuwon. Now, maybe they don't get Clyde Drexler if Ralph Sampson, his body holds up. That's the ultimate what if for me, because he was a top 10 player by year 2 in the NBA and one of the 5 greatest players in the history of college basketball, by the way, at Virginia. The other individual, if we want to go even further back, is a guy that was considered to be, along with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the greatest all-around center that this sport has ever seen. Because remember, Wilt Chamberlain, as great as he was individually, he didn't elevate guys around him. But you know who did? Some guy that never shut up behind a microphone, and that's the biggest compliment I can give him because, my God, was he a gifted orator, and that is the late, great Bill Walton. That's the ultimate what-if guy for me, too. Still had a Hall of Fame career. Carrington, Joel Embiid still has had a Hall of Fame career. Even Derrick Rose will eventually get in. But Bill Walton was on a trajectory where he was looking like he was going to supplant Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as the greatest center to ever live. He was Nikola Jokic before Nikola Jokic, by the way.
Right now, we're talking NBA with my guy, David Shepard. We're going through some of the storylines. We talked a lot about the East. Let's go over to the Western Conference. Are you seeing this the same way that I see it? We are on a crash course collision between what I think most of us consider to be the NBA Finals. The NBA Finals this year are whatever we get in the Western Conference. It looks to me like we are on a crash course between the Thunder and the Spurs. Do you see it that way as well?
It's a great point that you make, Carrington. It reminds me a lot of what took place in 2002 with the Kings and the Lakers, and whoever won that series was going to have a very easy time against the New Jersey Nets at the time. Yeah, for sure. You look at the Thunder, they were averaging 17 points per game plus every single contest they played against the Phoenix Suns. That was an easy sweep. That comes without Jalen Williams for the majority of that series. It just goes to show you how great SGA is. I don't want to hear any SGA slander moving forward about foul baiting, about not being fun to watch, stylistically, it not being pleasing. Let's get over that. This is one of the greatest players of his generation already, and he looks like he is on a crash collision course to be a back-to-back regular season MVP, something we haven't had since Nikola Jokic. And then for the Spurs, if not for a horrific violent fall in Game 2, attacking the rim by Victor Wembanyama against Drew Holiday, that's an easy sweep against Portland. You look at who both teams are going to face, it's going to be a Minnesota Timberwolves team in all likelihood, unless Denver can really step up in game number 6 for the San Antonio Spurs. They don't stand a you-know-what chance against San Antonio without Dante DiVincenzo and Anthony Edwards, who's likely to miss at least a couple more weeks with that hyperextension of the knee. So with that being said, it's going to be easy pickings for the Spurs in the second round. And then OKC's facing a Houston Rockets team or a Lakers team. You don't know with the health right now of Luka Doncic how good he's going to be in that second round. It looks like Austin Reeves is going to come back in the next few days, but that's going to be an easy matchup for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it's just a shame, Carrington, that Kevin Durant was more concerned with burner accounts than he was with actually meshing with his teammates. Maybe the Rockets would have ended up better than a 5 seed if that were the case.
Shep, if there is anybody that can paint this scenario, it's you. Shep, tell me how Minnesota can win just one more game. They got to win this game. This is their game 7, because if this series goes back to Denver, they're cooked. They're getting blown out in game 7. Paint the scenario of how Minnesota wins game 6.
Mike Conley Jr. goes into a time machine and goes back to his Memphis Grizzlies days. Ayo Dosunmu, if that doesn't happen and he doesn't pull a Stefan Urkel and, pull the lever, I know you're a big TGIF guy, Carrington. So if Mike Conley Jr. can do that, that's always gonna help, but that's obviously not a reality. Ayo Dosunmu in game number 3 had 25 points and reminded everybody why it was a mistake for the Bulls to punt early on him. And then what does he do in game number 4 to back that up? Has a career-high 43 points, has not had a 30-point game in more than 2 years. What a time to ball out and play the best game of your professional life. If he can do that, and Naz Reid can step up the way we have seen Naz Reid step up off the bench in years past, and Rudy Gobert can neutralize Nikola Jokic, not like game 5, but the first, I would say games 2, 3, and 4, when Nikola Jokic shot less than 35% from the floor. If those things can come into play and either Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic have an off game, Minnesota can absolutely win game 6. I need Jaden McDaniels to try to get inside the head of Nikola Jokic and the rest of the Nuggets the way he has this entire series. If he can do that, Minnesota can win game 6. There's no question about that, because Carrington, you've watched basketball for a long time. I've never seen Nikola Jokic have a 3-game stretch in the postseason where he has looked close to pedestrian. And that is because he's going against Rudy Gobert, who has done everything under the sun to make his life difficult. So I think it's possible. To your point, Minnesota, if they do not take advantage of game number 6 at home in front of that crowd, they're not winning game 7 in their dreams, let alone in actuality. So this is going to be the series in game number 6. And Ayo Dosunmu, Carrington, this is a lesson for everybody in any walk of life. Always be ready when your number is called. Like, when you host for Stephen A. Smith, and I hear Stephen A. Smith give you flowers every single time you host for him, you are always prepared. It doesn't matter what situation you come across, you are always ready. That's a lesson that can be relevant to anybody in any walk of life. Ayo Dosunmu is an example of that. And my God, was that 43 points necessary to give the momentum to the Timberwolves to take that 3-1 lead. You expect Denver to take advantage of their home court advantage in game 5. They did. Now it's time for Minnesota to do the same thing. And Ayo Dosunmu, he's going to get paid a lot of money very soon.
Well, David, speaking of check, be sure to reach out to Bill. Your check is going to be in the mail for all the nice words that you said about me. David, I appreciate you. That's David Shepard joining us on the show today, talking a little basketball as we are winding down in round 1 of the NBA playoffs. Shep, I appreciate you, man. We'll catch you as the playoffs keep progressing.
Appreciate you, Carrington. Anything for you, man. You're one of the very best, and thank you for having me, sir.
Absolutely. That's David Shepard joining us on the show today. Coming up on the other side, I would like to know who I'm working with. I bet I got to better understand these guys on a human level. We'll play a quick game here. I'll explain. Keep it right here on You Better You Bet.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
We're going to play a quick game here for a little bit. It's Tuesday, and I like to play something called a Tender Tuesday. Now, this is what we're going to do. And keep the music faded up a little bit because I need to set the Tuesday mood. Yesterday, I went to Chipotle, and they were all out of white rice. I said, what? And they said, it's going to be a 25-minute wait. And I looked at her, and I said, rice don't take that long. And I left. Well, you know what? I went to Pickleman's, and I got some chips. And that got me thinking, who doesn't love chips? We all love chips. My favorite, when I'm eating a sandwich, is just a nice original baked Lay's. Before we get back to very serious sports things, we're going to go around the room on a Tender Tuesday, and I'm going to ask you flavors of chips. You tell me, are you swiping left or right on these chips? Bill, let's start with you. Now, left on Tinder, because I imagine you didn't spend a lot of time on Tinder. Left means that you don't want to talk to that young girl, that you want to see other options. Right means, you know what? I wouldn't mind spending time with her. I'm going to give you first up, I'm going to give you cheddar jalapeno. Are you swiping left or right on a nice bag of cheddar jalapeno chips?
I like spicy food, but I don't need spicy potato chips. So I am swiping left. I am getting rid of those.
Okay, you're swiping left on a cheddar jalapeno. All right, let's continue to move on down the line here. Tyler, you are next up. Dill pickle. Are you swiping left or right on a bag of dill pickle chips?
I'm swiping left, and not only am I swiping left, I'm blocking them too. I want no part of that. I want no part of that person. We're swiping all the way left.
That's what I like to hear here on a Tender Tuesday. Kenny, we'll come to you here. We'll come back around one more time. Don't worry. There's a lot of different flavor of chips. Kenny, we're coming to sour cream and onion. Are you swiping left or right for a nice bag of sour cream and onion chips?
I'm swiping right. I'm a big fan of sour cream and onion. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I definitely like a good bag of sour cream and onion.
Kenny, I don't know if I like you or not yet. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this. It's still very much in question here. Sour cream and onion, the same way that we just saw somebody get blocked, the same way that Tyler blocked him, sour cream and onion, blocked. That's what I'm doing. I'm talking about blocked. We'll come back to you.
I'm coming
to
my man Kenny's defense. Sour cream and onion, that is a classic chip flavor. That is a great flavor. If it was like F, Marry, Kill chips, that's a chip you marry, Carrington. That is a solid chip.
Terrible. You know what? I'm coming to you now, Bill. We'll give you another opportunity here. Kenny, don't worry. You always get a chance to redeem yourself. Just because I passed it to you in the corner and missed, I'm not subbing you out. You still get another shot. All right, Bill, we're coming to you with salt and vinegar. Are you swiping left or right for a nice bag of salt and vinegar chips?
I could not swipe left fast enough. I don't want vinegar anywhere on my potato chips. That is vile and revolting. I don't understand people who like these chips. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to put them in grocery stores. They are awful. So, yeah, I'm blocking them as well.
Okay. We are moving on here. We're playing a quick game of Tender Tuesday with a nice bag of chips. Tyler, you are up next. Now, these are all real Lay's flavor. You can go to the grocery store right now, and you can get these. Red Hot Barbecue. Are you swiping left or right on Red Hot Barbecue chips?
Now, Carrington, that's my type right there. We're swiping right. We might super swipe, as you can do on Tinder. We might super swipe on those, so we're swiping right on that.
Okay, you're doing a super swipe here, all right? Kenny, we're coming back to you now. You got to redeem this relationship because we're off to a rocky start, my brother. We're off to a rocky start. But you know what? There's still time. They have a creamy garlic Caesar. Creamy garlic Caesar bag of chips. It is underneath their brand called Savory and Unique. Right now, if we're at the store and they tell you, you know what, we're all out, but we still got one bag left. Creamy garlic Caesar. Are you swiping left or right on this bag of chips?
This is a tough one because you asked me if there's only one bag left. I'd probably try it. I'm down to try this. If there was one bag left, I'd be like, I'm good on the chips. I'll try something else because I'm not the biggest fan. The garlic's kind of throwing me off a little bit. So I'm going to swipe left on this one.
You know what? I'm curious about this one. This is one I'd be intrigued to try. Like, I could see this just being a nice, cool summer breeze. I mean, who doesn't love a summer breeze? It makes me feel fine. You know what, Kenny? You redeemed yourself. I'm going to give you some extra minutes on this team. You know what? I'm happy you proved yourself. You played some great defense. You had your hands up. You communicated well. You're back in the rotation there. Because I was real worried about your spot there for a second. You were about to get Wally pipped. I didn't want you to get Wally pipped, Kenny. I didn't want that for you. I really didn't want that for you. Can I read to you guys very quickly this LeBron James quote? Because LeBron did an interview with Dave McMenamin. And it is an 8-part interview. So if you want to read it, I mean, it's a lengthy read, but he talked to him in different cities, you know, but he was asked about Michael Jordan. And he said this about Mike, quote, I have never really compared myself to Mike because our games are totally different. I've been a point forward for most of my life. I've always looked for the pass. MJ kind of looked for the shot. Not kind of, he did. He looked for the shot. There are a lot of things where I would say my game is a lot different and a lot better than his, but we both are great. We were both great. We're both great basketball players. So he had that to say about Michael Jordan. He also said that he hopes that he made Michael Jordan proud by wearing number 23. He also was asked about his record in the NBA Finals, and he said this, quote, it's like people really rather you not make the playoffs or lose in the first round than to lose in the finals, which is crazy to me. And I almost feel like, is it because of me? Everybody has something to say about my career. Oh, well, he made 8 straight finals, but was only able to win 3. He's the leading scorer in NBA history, but he's played 23 years. I am happy that we have reached this part of LeBron's career where LeBron just tells us what he thinks and how he feels. And we understand that we are on a little bit of borrowed time with LeBron. Like, we don't know how much more time we have left. The argument for LeBron in the NBA Finals has always been a little bit weird to me. Making it to the NBA Finals is a success. Now, yes, everyone would agree you rather win the finals than lose the finals, but it would not be better for LeBron James if he had just 4 appearances and won all of those championships as opposed to going to 10 NBA championships and losing 6 of them, especially when we were there and we have to have some of the context. We were there when LeBron took the Cleveland Cavaliers to the NBA Finals when he was 22 years old, where his best player was Mo Williams. We thought and expected LeBron James at his age to go up against the San Antonio Spurs that had Tim Duncan, David or Parker, Ginobili, all of these, Tony Parker. We expected that LeBron James to beat that San Antonio Spurs team that was a dynasty at that point in the NBA Finals. That's now a knock against LeBron's career. We were there. We saw it. That was a knock in LeBron's career that at 22 years old, LeBron beat the Detroit Pistons but couldn't beat the San Antonio Spurs. It would have been better to lose to the Pistons. Doesn't make any sense to me. We also saw LeBron in a series up against the Golden State Warriors, another team that was a dynasty, not have Kevin Love and not have Kyrie Irving. In what world was it expected that LeBron and the Cavs were going to win that series? Who was he passing the ball to? Ahmad Shumpert? J.R. Smith? Now, if you want to argue that LeBron has more holes in his resume than Mike, those are all fair arguments. And I'll even stand with you there. I would put Mike number 1 on my list because of that. I don't think Mike nearly has the holes and things that you can point to in his career in the same way that you can with LeBron. But going to the NBA Finals, if you're LeBron, is not a negative. I mean, what are we doing here? Especially when you look at the amount of guys and how many appearances they have. I mean, we all think Nikola Jokic is amazing. He has 1 appearance. We all think Giannis is fantastic. He has 1 appearance in his career. What are we doing here? Yes, it is absolutely a positive that you are able to navigate through the NBA playoffs, dominate a conference for almost a decade, and go to so many NBA finals. I'm not letting people convince me otherwise. I've never understood that argument. It's never made sense. I'm happy to be on the same side of LeBron James on that side. And the whole thing about longevity, now we're penalizing LeBron because he's been in the league for a long time. It's not like LeBron is some journeyman role player at this point. He's still one of the more productive players in the league. No. What we are seeing is history. That's what we are seeing. We are watching history happen right before our eyes. And you know what? I don't know how much longer we have with LeBron. I don't know how many more games, how many more moments we have, but I plan on enjoying the end of this. I hope that LeBron gives us the right send-off. I hope he announces it, and we get our 6 months of celebrating one of the greatest athletes that we have ever seen. LeBron has been in our lives since he was a junior in high school. We have seen LeBron grow up right before our eyes. We have tracked every decision in a way that we have with no other athlete of all time, including Michael Jordan, up to the point that he is now playing basketball with his kid in the postseason. He passed the ball to his son in a playoff game, and his son scored. If that's not something to celebrate, then we have lost the plot of all of this when it comes to sports. My name is Carrington Harrison. Happy to be here filling in for Nick Kostos on You Better You Bet. Coming up on the other side, we'll continue to get you ready for tonight's action in the NBA playoffs. We have 3 games coming up tonight, and we can see a couple of teams get eliminated later today. We'll get to that next. Keep it right here.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet on Westwood One Sports.
Let me tell you that when the games get bigger, the crowds get louder, and the excitement reaches a new level. Be a part of the playoff action when you bet with boosted odds. Activate your odds boost token for any bet on the NBA playoffs, and you'll receive an even bigger payout if your bet wins. Very simple. All you need to do is download the BetMGM app today. You know, I try to give you guys one bet whenever I am here, because, you know, I don't know if I'm going to be invited back or not. But you know what? The least I can do, if they're going to let me sit in this chair for my guy, Nick Kostos, is try to help you win a little bit of money. You know, that's the least that I can do. So let me tell you one bet that I have, and I want to help you get rich in the process. I think right now you need to make a bet on an outside team to make the NFL playoffs. Now, I know we got a lot of time, but now is where you're going to get some of your best odds. So, for example, earlier this week, I placed a wager on the Giants to make the postseason at plus 280. I love the Giants offseason. I think their floor is substantially higher than what it was last year. I think they are going to be one of the more improved teams. I saw a stat where in each of the last 7 years, a team that had a top 5 pick turned around and made the playoffs the next year. So I'm looking at Tennessee as a possibility to be one of those kind of teams. I also am looking at the Giants of being one of those kind of teams. Now, the Titans have even bigger odds if you want to roll the dice even more. But I'm telling you right now, I would go ahead and I would lock in one of those two bets. You know, maybe you got $5, $10, $20 just sitting there and you want to invest it. Don't put it in Apple. Put it in John Harbaugh. That's what I'm telling you. Right now, go ahead and make that investment, and you are going to triple your money here at the end of the football season. I love the Giants to make the postseason. And if you're feeling real frisky, you want to bet on Robert Saleh, go ahead and bet on the Titans to make the postseason. So we have a handful of NBA games coming up later today. Why don't we get you ready for those games before we sign off for the day? We have the Magic and the Pistons, the Raptors and the Cavs, and the Rockets and the Lakers. Let's talk a little bit about the Magic and the Pistons. I mean, this series has basically been Cade Cunningham and who else can you depend on to try to help you? I mean, if you are the Detroit Pistons, and for the most part, Tobias Harris has been the second best player for you in the postseason, I'm here to tell you that you are going to struggle in most series, especially against a Magic team that I think a lot of people have forgotten this. This Magic team had a chance of being the 5 seed at the end of the season. If they had won their season finale, the last game of the regular season, they would have outright avoided the play-in game. They then lost that game. They then got thrown into the play-in mix. I think the Magic are just a much better team than people think that they are, especially when you are factoring in Paolo Banchero is, I don't think he is as good as Cade Cunningham. Don't get me wrong. But the playoff version of Paolo Banchero is a legitimate number one in these kinds of series. Sure, if you're going up against the Thunder or the Spurs or one of those kind of series, you're going to see the gap. But in this kind of series, Paolo Banchero has given you very equal contribution to what Cade Cunningham is. Cade is averaging 23.9. Paolo is averaging 22.2. Paolo is averaging 8.5 rebounds. Cade is averaging 5.5 rebounds. Now, the assists are different, but Cade is also turning the basketball over a lot more than Paolo Banchero. So you got two legitimate ones in this series, and the Magic supporting cast is much better than Detroit's. In that game 4, where the Pistons had to figure out a way to win this game, the Magic, in my opinion, were never really challenged. I thought the Magic did a really good job of keeping the Pistons at arm length for basically the entire 48 minutes. Even when the Pistons would make a little bit of a run, the Magic would just snatch any of the momentum that they potentially had in that game. I think the Magic are in complete control of this series. Now, they are big underdogs today. Detroit is a 9.5-point favorite in this game. The total is at 211. I think the Magic are very, very viable even in today's game, and they are, at a minimum, in my opinion, closing this out in Game 6. I don't see a scenario based on how they've played so far through these first 4 games. I don't think Detroit is capable of beating this Magic team 3 times in a row. not with the deficiencies that I think they have. You're not getting a great contribution from your second best player, and you are not shooting the ball effectively. When you're going up against a team that can match you defensively the way that I think Orlando has shown, I think Orlando is clearly the favorite right now in this series. They only need to win one more game. They have just very clearly outplayed the Detroit Pistons so far in this series. I'm willing to take it one step further. This is me looking ahead just a little bit. I think the Magic are going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I think the Magic are beating the Pistons either in 5 or 6. I also think that the Magic are going to beat either the Raptors or Cleveland. Now, a lot of people are going to pick Cleveland. The Raptors would be a little bit of a different story because I think it would be an upset if they end up winning this series. Most people are picking Cleveland to win this series. But I don't think that the Cavs are playing better basketball right now than I think Orlando is. And I think there is a measure of toughness that Orlando has that I don't think the Raptors or Cleveland possess. I don't think there is a measure of toughness, and we are willing to beat you up and grind this game down that I don't think either the Raptors or Cleveland has. I think the Cavs are a more talented basketball team. I don't think so about Toronto, but I think Cleveland is more talented than the Magic. But I think the Magic just have enough that I think they're going to end up playing whoever comes out of that Knicks or Celtics series. I think the Magic are going to end up playing one of those teams in the Eastern Conference Finals. We got the Raptors and the Cavs coming up later today as well. The Cavs, they are an 8.5-point favorite. The total is 218. It goes without saying to me for Cleveland, if you lose this series to Toronto, it is unacceptable. It honestly is unacceptable. You have more firepower than them. You have more playoff experience than they have. You are the better team out of those two. You are back home. Take care of business if you are Cleveland. Figure out a way to win one game in Toronto. Let's end this at 6. There's no reason why this should go to 7 if you are the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's take care of our own business. Let's wrap this series up. Let's win these next 2 games, and let's advance. Now, in the nightcap today, honestly, it really comes down to what's the status of Kevin Durant? Now, maybe this is my conspiracy brain going a little bit. I mean, in Game 4, you know the NBA wants to get one more game out of the Lakers. You know that. So Lakers come out there. They just completely lay an egg. LeBron, he was sleepwalking through most of it. I think LeBron was we've seen him do this before where he energy conserves. You know what? I'm not worried about it. I don't think the Lakers came out with a lot of effort in Game 4. We're back home. We're at Game 5. I don't think LeBron is going to want to get back on a plane anytime soon. And you know, if you're the Lakers, you will get a pretty decent amount of rest because they're not starting that series instantly. No, they're going to give it a little bit of time to cook up a little bit, depending on what happens with the Nuggets and the Timberwolves series, especially if the Nuggets win that series in 7. So they're not going to have one game in Game 3 and the other series is just starting. They're going to line them up a little bit. If you're the Lakers, you can get 4 or 5 days to get rested up. Now, I still don't think the Lakers are going to win their series anyway against Oklahoma City, but you only have a chance if you get Luka back. You only have a chance if you get Austin Reeves back. And your best chance to do that is by winning this game tonight against Houston and giving yourself a business week to get rested, to get healthy, and then get ready for the second round of the postseason where, at a minimum, you're going to get Austin Reeves back. We'll see if you get Luka back, but I think Austin Reeves could play in this series. I think there's a chance that he could play later on tonight. So we'll see how this series can potentially land, but we got 3 games tonight. We got Magic and Pistons. We got Raptors and Cavs, and we have Lakers and Rockets in tonight's action. Taking a look ahead to the rest of the series in the NBA, there are 3 series right now that are heading into Game 6. We have the Knicks and Hawks. We have the Celtics and the Sixers. Both of those games are tomorrow. And we also have Nuggets and Timberwolves. That's another series that's tomorrow. So it is a Game 6 Wednesday with 2 series in the Eastern Conference and 1 series in the Western Conference. If you are Minnesota, it's very simple to me. Minnesota has to be thinking we got 1 chance to get 1. You don't have 2 chances to get 1. You got 1 chance to get 1. If Minnesota has to get back on a plane and go to Denver, Colorado, their season is over. If Minnesota has to get back on the plane and they got to make those plans and they got to make a hotel plan, it's over for them. Minnesota needs to figure out a way to scratch out this 1 game at home. They did it before. In the last game that these two teams played in Minnesota, I mean, you didn't get anything from Dante DiVincenzo. He just wasn't on the court long enough. And you got 5 points from Anthony Edwards. So you already beat this team once with minimal contribution from Anthony Edwards and basically nothing from Dante DiVincenzo after the Achilles injury. So we know you can beat them. Now, can Ayo Dosunmu give you the same kind of game that he had? Can you get that game from Julius Randle? Can you get a all-star future Hall of Fame effort from Rudy Gobert? You're going to need all of those things. But Minnesota, you do not have two chances to win one. I know that's what it says. No, you got one chance to win one. It needs to be Game 7 energy for the Minnesota Timberwolves, because if they are going back to Denver for Game 7, where Denver has all of the momentum, they're also the healthier team, they're also at home. Minnesota, it will be 1-2-3 Cancun. You can see it coming a mile away if that ends up happening. The Knicks did exactly what they were supposed to do in that series. They got down 2-1. It felt a little bit shaky, but they have now steadied the course. They won Game 4. They dominated Game 5. You are now going back to Atlanta for a little bit of a coin flip. It's a 1.5-point spread for New York. So Vegas sees this, the odds makers, the books, they see this as being a coin flip. I think the Knicks win that game. I think the Knicks win Game 6, and I think they're headed to the semifinal to go up against either Boston or Philadelphia. The question for Philadelphia is, how long can you keep this series alive? Can you win one more game to push it to Game 7, where I think the pressure is going to be on Boston? You had a 3-1 series lead. You had a chance to close this out in Game 5. You're now coming back for Game 6. Joel Embiid is back healthy. You got Tyrese Maxey. You got Paul George. I mean, you can roll the dice there if you're Philadelphia. You are playing a little bit free in this. I'm looking at these three series. One of these series is going to Game 7. The favorite team is not winning in all three of these. That's just not how the NBA works. So whether it's the Knicks going to Game 7, the Celtics going to Game 7, or Denver going to Game 7, one of those three teams is going to hit. For those of you that play parlays, if you played a three-leg parlay, you are not winning that. You know one leg is going to let you down. Are we going to get a Game 7 in the NBA Finals? Other than that, I think the NBA playoffs have kind of played out the way that we thought they could play out. We got a Western Conference collision course, and we're getting ready to see who emerges in the East. My name is Carrington Harrison. I had a lot of fun today filling in for Nick Kostos. I want to thank everybody behind the scenes for their help. I will catch you guys next time. You have been listening to You Bet or You Bet on Westwood One Radio. Take care of yourself. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.